What's up, everyone? Welcome. Normal America Show host robnoerr. Daytime crew. Better than those nighttime schmucks. I was actually last night, nighttime Rob was explaining that you see, have you ever seen the movie? I'm going to spoil this movie for you. If you've ever seen Fight Club, the idea that the main character, is both Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, he's sort of delirious. He's got this split personality. That's like me, except Day Shift Rob and Night Shift Rob are remarkably similar. They're very similar, but they are two distinct people. And I cannot stand Night Shift Rob, or for that matter, the rest of the nighttime crew. They're all a bunch of shitheads. Trust me when I say this. You don't even want to run into this Night Shift crew. They're terrible. They'd be, play the whip song, do a debate, hop on a panel. We don't have time of day for that shit. You're on Daytime Crew. Yeah, I do sort of look like Brad Pitt. Thanks, Logical Thoughts. So that's why we're here on Day Shift Crew. Day Shift, we're respectable. We're productive members of society. Not like those heathens in the Night Shift. Night Shift Rob, what's that guy doing? Staying up. Here's a good rule of thumb. Nothing happens good post midnight. Should be in bed at midnight. And Night Shift Rob's up till like 2, 3 in the morning. The dude's up to no good. That's all I'm saying. Night Shift Rob says he takes care of my wife better than Day Shift Rob. See, he's a real scoundrel. That's not a gentlemanly thing to say. It's ridiculous. Yeah, see that? Steven still working. From the night shift show to the day shift. I'm more Jared Leto than Brad Pitt. Well, yesterday, our friend Vince the ShamWow guy says I look like Billy Mays. Billy Mays here for Normal America with robnoerr show. Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you this much. I got to do a little mixing here. A little mixology. What do you think of that? I got 1 cup of water. I'm going to add it to my big cup of water. Close enough. Then I'm going to put an energy thing in there. Yeah, 9 o'clock. My wife must be on the phone. I hear her downstairs talking to someone. I'm actually having a very good day. I'll explain why in a moment. But oh shoot, what happened? My shaky cam fell. What are you doing, shaky cam? I got good news today. I'm still very busy. I'm ready to not be busy for a couple days. That'd be nice. But I'm very busy. But the news today was very, very good. Does anyone know what I had going on? Night Shift Rob probably told you last night why I needed to get some sleep. Because I had something going on today. Does anyone know? I got some good news today. Legitimate. No joke. All joking aside. My wife's talking to Night Shift Rob. That bastard. He leaves her messages even for the day. Yeah, I had to take my dog back to the vet. So I have a dog, Dorothy. She's the best. She's a wonderful dog. She ate some garbage at my mother-in-law's place and got impacted bowel. So she had to have surgery. So it's been 2 weeks, and she went back, and everything is very good. They were able to take the staples out. The stitches are those ones that dissolve out eventually, but no infection, back to normal. She's back to a normal diet, hopefully not of garbage. And very good news. So no complications whatsoever. And I can sort of tell, in fact, you've even seen her on stream a couple times since, she's definitely back to being her active self. But it's just nice to get that confirmation from the vet. So really a load off my mind. She really, really is a tremendous dog. And I felt really bad that she was in some pain. So good to have her back to normal. It's really sad, though, because she's smart enough to know, we pulled into the same place that, she was having a bad time last time she was there, getting surgery, So she didn't want to get out of the car. But, man, we took her to Burger King. and we got her. They have like ham, egg, and cheese croissants. We got her just a croissant with ham. She's quite the fan. She was very pleased. So she's doing great. Hey, Mike Ball, thanks for the raid, man. Always appreciate it. Really do. So things are looking up, man. It's nice to get good news like that. So still busy, but my goodness, what a load off my mind. Well, now my wife's texting me. Mike Ball, thank you, my friend. Welcome, Mike Ball Raiders. It's great to have you here. I was just talking about my dog got awesome news at the vet. She's healed up. She had emergency surgery 2 weeks ago. Everything good now. So, also, there was a Doberman in there that was the biggest Doberman I've ever seen. It had to be mixed with something. Like, this thing was huge. Like, its back stood at my navel. A big-ass Doberman. But very friendly. Seemed like a friendly dog. Thank you, Raiders. Really appreciate it. Who'll be the first to sweep in and buy up property in Jamaica? Well, if you bastards send me super chats, me. I'm just kidding. I don't know, man. It's a sad situation. I hope that everything ends as well as possible there. I really do. Tacit, thanks so much. Let's get to super chats real quick, then we'll get to call-ins and the stories of the day. AJC, always incredibly generous, gives $20, says, just finished last night's stream. Have to admit, night shift crushed it last night. Here's the start for day shift. Just saying. Now I got to listen to Night Shift Rob brag about how great they did last night. Terrible. AJC then gifts 10 memberships. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Bandit, $2 says $2 for vet bill and EOD is a ginger. Listen, although my vet bills were exorbitant, all things considered, it was about $6,000. They did not charge us for today's visit. So I guess that was baked into the cake already. So I'm sure if there were complications, it would have been a different matter. But all in all, it was like 10 minutes. They went in, took the staples out, and that was it. Lesson sell, $2 says Burger King, where all pets and pet masters eat. Burger King breakfast, man. My dog loved it. Tacit Tempo, $5 says can't stay to watch. Have a good stream, though. Thank you. Working on this stretch of road here. They've been working on it forever, right out in front of my house. Oh, look at this. A fake EOD? Wow. And so, like, everywhere, it's like there's still, right, this last mad rush, right, before winter, where they're trying to finish up the road work. So it's like every 2 miles, there's another stretch of road. So it's like a maze. You're trying to, like, navigate, like, what's the best way to, you know? And Burger King was on the path of least resistance. Oh, okay, I got you, EOD. I thought someone was impersonating you. EOD is actually worth impersonating. Not like Are We Not Men. No one's going to bother to impersonate Are We Not Men. What would the point be? Besides, we would out them right away. They would not be nearly much of an asshole. Naughty Germ, $5. Thank you as always, my friend. Always appreciate it. Our friend How Long Nate. Thank you. Member 4 months says, like the stream, new ninjas. Thank you. And Donald Joseph, $5 says, overwhelmed by guilt. Now here's the deal. Yesterday was an incredible day. If you watched to the end of the call-in show yesterday, I got to interview the great Sandy Peterson, creator of Call of Cthulhu pen and paper game, worked on Doom, Age of Empires, Quake, Halo Wars, truly a legend. So go back and watch that show yesterday, the final hour of the show. Tremendous. Then, of course, I did the extravaganza and got to do an hour show with, of course, the normal characters, Jake Rattlesnake and Mr. E, but also Vince the ShamWow guy. Look at this. Truly incredible. What does today have in store for us? Look at this guy. There he is. You tell Jake and I are having a good time. Vince the ShamWow guy. Oh, yeah, it happened. You didn't know that you're watching basically a celebrity. You didn't know that. You didn't know that I was able to pull Sandy Peterson and Vince the ShamWow guy. Everybody wants to jump right to Vince's arrest. Didn't Vince get arrested? You know, we didn't bring that up. Vince at one point was arrested. Yeah, because a woman of the night bit his tongue and wouldn't let go, and he swung at her. Who hasn't been there? Shit happens. Who gives a shit? Moving on. You know? But if someone bit your tongue and didn't let go, you'd be throwing punches too, you know? In this house, Vince the ShamWow guy's a legend. I'll tell you that much. There'll be no besmirching the ShamWow guy here. I heard that Vince was on Kill Tony, yeah. The powers that be didn't like the fact that Vince was bringing quality products right to your doorstep. So they conspired to take a great man down. And it didn't work. What's up, Geoverse? And now, I've hit another milestone in life. And one day I interviewed one of the dudes that created Doom, that almost single-handedly created Call of Cthulhu. And then I got to interview the guy that created the ShamWow. What does today hold for me? Well, after we do this call-in show today, I'll be doing the extravaganza with the great Jake Rattlesnake again at 5 p.m. Followed by at 9 p.m., I will be debating with Grid Motorsports against someone named Craig and someone named Max on Modern Day Debate. And the topic will be, who commits more violence, the left or the right? Alex Jones today, I don't know that that's happening. That would be amazing. Maybe I'll get to interview Geoverse at some point. Then, plus the Panelverse is watching me. My goodness. We're blowing up. What a life. The EBT wars are coming. What are we going to talk about today's show? Well, let's stop stalling. I do have a hard out at 2:30 today because I get to pick up my son at school. Very excited. I got a lot going on in the background, too, with a lot of projects that I'm working on. So, these next 2 weeks before DebateCon are going to be really, 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 really busy for me. And so it's all worth it, though. It's all worth it. And at least I might be working a lot, but I have a good time doing it. So, but I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see my son and just hang out with him. He got his school pictures back yesterday. He was doing the Mr. Beast smell all the time where he's like, so he didn't do that. His school pictures, he's sort of like, going to smell like this. Like, you can't see the upper teeth as much. I guess it's like the bottom teeth are sticking out a little more. I think he's handsome as shit, though. I love it. I think he's great. I'm very proud of the man. He makes me proud every day. He's great. I love the way he thinks. He's very much like, he's a genuinely nice kid. He really is. But he's also smart, right? So like last night, he's like, Dad, can I bring you a blanket? And I was like, sure. And he puts a blanket on me. He goes, can you get me a snack? He knows. He's buttering me up. It's like, very smart. So I did. I got him a banana. I'm a big fat guy, and I hope my son never becomes a big fat guy. So we're trying to keep most junk food out of the house. He is, you know what his favorite snack in the world is? It's these like, I call them English cucumbers. I don't know if that's the actual name of them, but they're like the smaller cucumbers. And if you just cut that in 4 slices for him, and he'll eat the shit out of them. He'll eat 2-3 of those a day. But I love it. And he loves apples and bananas too. So that's usually the snack. If we're getting a snack, it's either a cucumber, an apple, or a banana. But he only likes green apples. He won't eat like a Macintosh or Red Delicious. He likes the Granny Smith. It's all right. I feel like that's more of an adult taste. It's a little more sour taste to your green apple. Yes, Spiro. Spiro knows. So, topics for today. Of course, as always, anything that you want to talk about. Some things that I've highlighted. More stories with Mamdani. This bullshit story about his aunt. Oh, my aunt was afraid because she wore a hijab to ride the subway after 9/11. And then people, of course, not the media, people on social media dug into it. And it turned out it was bullshit. His aunt's not a lady that wears a hijab. So then he comes out and he's like, actually, when I said aunt, when I said that, I meant my dad's cousin, not actual aunt. That's what I meant. And let's see, I had this saved somewhere. Adam Carlson says, do white people really not know what an auntie is? You can see the aunt who Zohran Mamdani said was too afraid to wear hijab on the subways after 9/11 is actually a deceased distant cousin, he clarified on Monday. Good job, Adam Carlson. But then this guy links, and he had said this days ago. He said, this is how it's going to end up. He says, this is 100% going to be one of those lefty plausible deniability things where aunt means one of his mom's friends or something, and then left is good to go with stupid white people. Obviously, he wasn't referring to his actual aunt. Muslims use auntie as a term of endearment for a family friend. And that's exactly what's happened. Just bullshit when you get called out. Oh, no, I use the word differently than you. My mom was actually persecuted and was sitting on the bus with Rosa Parks. She was there with her. Oh, what's that? You could prove definitively based on birth records that wasn't my mom? Yeah, actually, it was a friend of my aunt's cousin's grandma. That's what we call mom in rural Pennsylvania. We call that mom in rural Pennsylvania. So, how dare you guys didn't know that? You guys are a bunch of idiots. It's a joke. Verna Desert, $5 says, actually, when I said aunt, I meant Aunt 007. Right. Just more bullshit. But while we're getting actual Mamdani's family, here's Mamdani's father. He wrote this 3 years after 9/11. Clearly, the prime objective of the suicide bomber is not to terminate his or her own life, but that of others defined as enemies. We need to recognize the suicide bomber, first and foremost, as a category of soldier. Does not the suicide bomber join both aspects of our humanity, particularly as it's been fashioned by political modernity, and that we are willing to subordinate life, both our own and that of others, to objectives we consider higher than life? Suicide bombing needs to be understood as a feature of modern political violence rather than stigmatized as a mark of barbarism. Awesome! What a swell dude. See if I can find this. Here's Mamdani's father. In 2022, I believe.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. And the American model was exported all around the world. Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized two things. One, that genocide was doable. It is possible to do genocide. That's what Hitler realized. Second thing Hitler realized is that you don't have to have a common citizenship. You can differentiate between people. The Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws. Anyway, the US put Indians in reservations. The US invented the model.
Zris says, that's it. I won't be voting for Mamdani's father. There you have it. More weaponized stupidity from the left. I won't vote for his father. Make no mistake about it. Zris is an equally un-American sack of shit. Let's not kid ourselves. That's why he downplay and belittle this. Zris is a lefty through and through. He's more based than most lefties, but he's a scumbag that thinks that America's evil and white people are evil and Christians are evil and money is evil and capitalists are evil. Make no mistake. That's the people that say this shit. Pure sacks of shit. I won't vote for his father. Won't vote for him. Yeah, that's great to hear, Zris. I don't think you're worth a shit. How about that? I think you're a phony. I think you're a fucking loser. How about that, Zris? I don't think you're evil. I just think you're a fucking worthless sack of shit. How's that? Fair enough. Communists. I don't think that. I don't. How's that sound, Zris? Fair enough? What else do we have to talk about today? Nah, Zris is okay. I'm just fucking with him. It is stupid, though. I'm sure Mamdani's ideology will have nothing to do with that of his father. Sure. Sure, he's completely different when he's campaigning with unindicted co-conspirators of the first World Trade Center attack. Nothing to see here, right? Here's Mamdani in 2019, not his father.
There is still, this illusion, and it's partially a result of settler colonialism, that all of us can become New Yorkers, that all of us can settle into the city. And yet there would be these moments where I would be reminded by someone whose intent was to tell me that you do not belong. And one of those first moments was on 9/11, when, before I knew what had happened, my teacher had pulled me and a Muslim classmate of mine out of the class and told us that something has happened and you may be bullied. And I want you to tell me if that happens. And frankly, I was lucky because most Muslim students in the city were not given that kind of care from their teachers. And yet in that moment, I realized that I was not simply another classmate in a middle school. I was distinct, and there was a marker of that distinction on me. And it was something that I would be reminded of again and again. Something when we came back from a trip abroad, being pulled aside at JFK by immigration agents in a double mirrored room, sitting me down on my own while my family was outside, and asking me if I had just attended a terrorist training camp, and if I had intentions of attacking this country, and if so, what were those plans? And it's something that has continued in the time since, where a few months ago, I went with a client of mine to a bankruptcy court, and as we're going into the court, the security guard takes me aside and pats me down with additional care and asks me multiple times if I have any weapons of mass destruction on me. And in these moments, the sense of not knowing where home is, they're amplified by what I would see around me.
I don't believe that a security guard patted him down and asked him if he had any WMDs on him. I think he's full of shit. I think just like he was full of shit about his aunt being afraid to ride the subway. I think he's full of shit. That's what I think. Personally, I think he's full of shit. In 2019, people were patting him down, asking him if he had WMDs on him. I'm looking for a clip. I find the text, but I would like the clip. Oh, I know you exist, clip. Let's find it. We'll just use this. What terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans. Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims. Yes, that's Mamdani. That's Mamdani. He's the real victim. Him and his family. They're the victims of 9/11. Of course, this person sums it up. Says, a friend of mine lost his son in the World Trade Center. They found half of his body. A funeral was held. The family tried to heal. 6 months later, they found the other half of him. This motherfucker and his phony story could fuck off all the way back to Uganda, and he could take our governor with him. Here's the white population of New York City. In 1910, it was 98% white. And you can see in 1950, still 90%. Now, around 2020, it was 32%. What city is the center of the United States? DC or New York? You can make an argument for either. It's very similar to London in the UK. What percent of London is native born? 41% of London is people that weren't born in the United Kingdom. I do look at my keyboard to type. It's true. So we can talk about Mamdani. Some other things to talk about. On that note, these were the amount of illegals given Social Security numbers during the Biden administration. 270,000 and change 2021, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, 2 million, almost in 100,000 in 2024. Couple more stories real quick, and then we'll get to calls. I have 2 hours worth of calls. This story's horrific, so warning. This was in Paris. An illegal immigrant named Daibai Benkird essayed, tortured, and murdered Lola Daviet, who was 12, before dumping her body outside the building where she lived and where her family works in Paris. Her father then later died. I think he took his own life. They had a memorial for her. This was recently. This is Antifa showing up to her memorial. Allegedly, they destroyed the mural of the girl. It's nice, right? And then maybe the story of the day, 2 things real quick. From the great Jonathan Turley. I need a better thumbnail. What? Hey, my editor changes them after. In what Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, has reportedly called a possible game changer, the American Federation of Government Employees Union is demanding that Democrats end the shutdown. The union of government employees is now telling Democrats they need to end the shutdown. Now, my prediction is within the next month that this shutdown will end. However, it is possible that it could go longer. I don't think this is likely, but this shutdown's different than previous ones. And one of my favorite people who talks about the economy, Peter St. Onge, is going to explain to you why here.
The government shutdown could theoretically last until 2027, according to Zero Hedge. Dare we dream? As the federal shutdown enters day 28, we are just 1 week shy of the record set back in 2018, when Trump wanted a border wall and Democrats wanted new voters. Republicans ended up surrendering on that one with not one penny for the wall, but this time, amazingly, Republicans have held the line. This is probably because polls are showing the shutdown is not actually hurting Republicans. In fact, their odds in the midterm elections, which is the most important thing in Washington right now, have actually gone up, since the shutdown began, now hitting 40%. That's pretty impressive considering the party in power has won midterms just 3 times since 1934. Yet here we are, near even after 4 weeks of shutdown. Now the polling suggests mainstream media has lost their mojo, while Trump has been very careful to keep funding everything popular, so the military, ICE, WIC for pregnant women, while starving all the left-wing garbage, the foreign aid, money holes for New York subways and wind farms, food stamps for illegals. So there's little pressure for Republicans to cave. They win by doing nothing, which, to be fair, is already their comfort zone. That takes us to Zero Hedge, who asks, how long can it keep going? Now, the key is most past shutdowns were paired with a debt ceiling, which makes markets panic about treasury payments, which are the lifeblood of our Ponzi financial system. But the next debt ceiling doesn't hit until mid-2027. That removes the external pressure to cut a deal. So if the world's not ending, if markets aren't even noticing the shutdown, if Republicans are rising in the polls while Democrats are afraid of their Antifa base, nobody needs a deal. In theory, this means they can literally keep going until 2027. So for fun, what if they do? For starters, 2027 is far past these 61 days needed to permanently fire federal workers. The Office Management and Budget has already officially fired roughly 10,000 and can keep going to, in theory, all 750,000 who are officially listed as useless or non-essential. GDP shrinks because government spending counts as GDP, which it should not. Jobs also shrink as thousands of federal workers no longer collect 6 figures to look out the window or fund riots. So GDP and jobs look bad, but both make the country richer. And then the big one, the national debt. Keeping the useless third of the federal government closed for a year and a half would save roughly $2 trillion. Could actually be closer to 3. Now, it's hard for Congress to respend the windfall in a shutdown, so that could go directly into a budget surplus that would start paying down debt. That would lower borrowing costs on the debt in a virtuous cycle. In fact, it would lower borrowing costs across the board to factories and families alike. More important, shutting the useless third of the government for a year and a half would plant these seeds in voters' minds that maybe we should permanently defund it and make the surplus permanent as well. So as next brought to you by I Trust Capital, Kalshi odds on the shutdown are still only 44 days, so we are a long ways from 2027. But if Senate Republicans miraculously hold the line, it is possible to get the transformational cuts their voters actually want. Okay, we'll be watching.
Now, there's zero chance that it goes to 2027. I would say the chance that makes it past the 61-day time frame necessary to permanently fire federal workers is slim to none. But what Republicans should do is not give 1 inch. Nothing. At some point, Democrats are going to be looking for an off-ramp. If Republicans truly hold the line, which they should, people are correctly starting to blame Democrats, including the government's unions, because it is the Democrats. The Republicans are asking for nothing. They're literally just putting forth a CR that the Democrats supported previously, added nothing of their own. People like John Fetterman, that's a Democrat, have came out and said completely on the Democrats, this is completely the Democrats' fault. People are starting to realize it. Republicans should not give 1 inch. The problem is, I don't think Chuck Schumer wanted the shutdown in the first place. They just understand that their radical base wants them to fight anything Trump wants. Anything Republicans want. So if Republicans want this, nope, we have to fight. Okay? Now, Republicans should wisely be like, we're not giving an inch. Nothing. Here's the bill, take it or leave it. Because Republicans get the best of both worlds. On one hand, they get the government shut down, and they eventually get to fire these worthless federal workers, which is great. But on the other hand, the Democrats will get the blame for it, which is amazing. So they don't have to worry about the political fallout. Now, Democrats are going to know this, and Schumer's going to be like, nope, but they're looking for an off-ramp. They're going to be like, well, we got to save face. We got to be able to go back to our base and not have our tail between our legs and say, well, we failed. We got absolutely nothing. So the last hurrah is hoping that once the SNAP payments don't go out for next month, that this puts massive pressure on Republicans, that it's blamed on Republicans. And that's why you've seen like the government of Maine that sent out a notice, and I think California did the same, that sent out notices saying, Trump is withholding your SNAP benefits. It's not true. It's the Democrats. The real story is Democrats want to fund illegals getting Medicaid. That's why you're not getting your food stamps. That's the real story. But they're going to try to spin it because they need a last-ditch Hail Mary so that Republicans will come to the table and give them anything. And at this point, Democrats will be like, dude, just come to the table and give us anything. It doesn't matter. Give us $10 on something so that we can spin it to our radical base saying, see, we won. Our holdout was principled, and we achieved victory. And Republicans should steadfastly be like, nope, this is the deal. And if they can hold out till around 60 days, the Democrats are going to give in. Now, mark my words, you will see an uptick in social unrest as we get closer to that 60-day deadline. The Democrats need something to force Republicans to say, okay, we'll give in on something. They need something. So that's what we have to look forward to in the next 30 days. But so far, be honest, do any of you realize that the government shutdown has it affected you? I know one person who it's going to start affecting their paycheck. Now, my prediction is, and I think this is the most likely scenario, that Republicans will cave in because that's what they do. Never in the history of politics has there been a party that's defining characteristic is to be able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory as much as the Republican Party. They will, if you could count on one thing, it's Republicans fucking shit up. That's not an accident. It's not really that they're messing up. It's because many people within the Republican Party are just in a uniparty and they actually like the behemoth size of government. And they actually don't like the idea that Trump's seen as an outsider. They want to go back to the days of the Republican Party of the Bushes and the Romneys and the Cheneys and the Paul Ryans. So my prediction is that eventually Republicans will cave in. Rad Duke got laid off because of it. I'm sorry to hear that, man. So we'll see. But I thought it was interesting to hear Peter St. Onge say, hypothetically, it could go to 2027. It won't, but interesting. All right. Half hour's up. Let's do it. Let's put the link out there. From here on out, it's your show in the audience. We ask two things. One, based callers. That'd be nice. We'll talk about any topic that you want within terms of service. I throw out some possible recommendations. But you could go ahead and choose whatever topic that you would like. No calls to violence. No homophobic, racial slurs, or otherwise violating terms of service. Secondly, send in super chats. We will need a set of super chats. We cannot fail in our goal of $357. If that happens, I don't even want to tell you what my mods do to me. It's very unfortunate. Every time I don't achieve our goal of $357, Naughty Germ and EOD and Are We Not Men put me through a struggle session. They just get on a Discord call and berate me for like 2 hours, demanding I say things like, I'm a huge piece of shit. You know? So, please consider sending in super chat monies. We can also talk about the interviews I did yesterday with Sandy Peterson, which was a tremendous interview. So if you're interested in that interview and, you know, talking to an awesome game developer that develops some of the most influential pen and paper games and video games in history, we could talk about that. Or the hour-long show I did with Vince the ShamWow guy. Also, I would like to apologize to Zris. I went a little hard on Zris there, giving him shit. Zris is a good guy. He might be a shitty communist, but in fairness, I'm a shitty Pittsburgh Pirates fan, so we all have our soft spots, you know. So, Follow terms of service. Send in super chats. I'm here till 2:30. Let's do it. Our first caller today. We got quite the lineup here. So if you want to call, you better call in soon because we got a lot of people lined up already. Wicked Wally, real quick. Thanks, $5. Says, Rob, you got to help a brother out. Millie's going to be awake soon, and I better have an update for her on how Dorothy's doing. Well, I should have tuned in earlier. My dog, Dorothy, we took to the vet. She had emergency surgery 2 weeks ago, so she got our staples removed today. She's doing phenomenally. The whole thing took 10 minutes. They took them out, said everything looks good. So she's doing amazing, you know. All right. Our first caller. Fallen Heathen, what's up today, my friend? Hey, I saw you sent me a message and I didn't respond yet. I'm sorry, I've been crazy busy, but I will respond to you. I promise.
It's all right. It's not a big deal. We just last time I called in, we got kind of sidetracked off a question you asked me. You want to hear something funny about this whole government shutdown? Is the FBI's website and the ATF's website has a disclaimer at the top saying, due to the Democratic shutdown, stuff won't be updated. And the reason why I know that is I almost Hunter Biden myself into some new charges over the weekend.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I got arrested back in like 2016, and I had everything expunged off my record after it was misdemeanor stuff, but I got it all expunged, and I went to go do a background check, and if it's been expunged, you answer no if you've ever been charged with a misdemeanor. So I answered no, but then my background check got delayed. So that's why I know about the FBI website and stuff like that, because I had to call the FBI yesterday and figure out what's going on. So I thought.
Well, listen, I'm glad that was when you said I almost Hunter Biden. I was like, oh no, hookers and drugs. Oh no, like.
I did watch a Charlie Sheen documentary last night, though. That dude's wild.
Yeah, well, he lived quite the life. That tiger blood will do it to you, you know. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
forget. Real quick, let me do this. There.
What's
I always forget to switch it so everyone's name's on screen because everyone's always like, "Who's this guy?" You know. So there you go. Now.
Oh, right on. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, So luckily, I talked to the FBI yesterday, and they said, "No, you're all good. It does show that it's expunged, just delayed for X, Y, and Z." However, though, this shutdown is affecting things that I never even considered, like the ATF and background checks. And it's actually affecting the company we work for, the mortgage company we work for, because all the people that have government jobs whose paychecks are now like in limbo, like they're not getting their loans, like the DPA programs, like all kinds of stuff like that. It's pretty wild. It's something I never even thought of.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's amazing how much of our economy is sort of the government spending money. One of the things, I forgot to say this, one of the things that economist that I played there mentioned was about government spending counting towards GDP and how it shouldn't, which I totally,
really?
Yeah, it does. It counts towards GDP. So it reminds me of a joke I saw on X, and I heard this joke a long time ago, but I did post this the other day. I reposted it. There's two economists, and they're walking through the woods, and they see a pile of shit. And the first economist looks over at the second one and goes, "I'll pay you $100 to eat that pile of shit." So the second economist goes over and puts the shit in his mouth and eats it. And the first economist gives him $100. So they keep walking, and there's another pile of shit. And the second economist looks at the first one and goes, "I'll pay you $100 to eat that pile of shit." So the first economist goes over and eats the shit and gets the $100 from the second economist. So then they start walking, and after a couple minutes, the first economist looks over at the second and goes, I feel like we just both ate piles of shit for nothing. We just passed the same $100 back and forth. And the second economist says, "That's not true. We just increased GDP by $200."
Yeah,
like,
dude.
It's
a total joke.
It's like, yeah, government spending counting towards GDP is an absolute joke. It's absurd. I was talking to my wife today. I have to think through this position. And look, I've been in this position, so don't get me wrong. This would have negatively affected me. But people, I think, make a valid point that if you're a ward of the state, if you're getting paid more out in welfare than you're putting in, perhaps you shouldn't be allowed to vote. But I'll take it one step further. And I'm not suggesting this totally, but I'm strongly considering it. If you have a federal job and you're paid by the government, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to vote. You should not be allowed to vote for more
Yeah.
shit if you're reliant on the government. Let the rest of us determine whether or not that your job is necessary and if you deserve a raise and all that. You shouldn't be able to vote for your own raise, right? That's, now I'd have to think about it. Obviously, I think there'd be exceptions and it can't be that simple. But it's an interesting proposition because the question that you're trying to resolve is, what do you do once 50% of the country is reliant on the government for their way of life? What do we do?
Yeah.
Those people will never vote to lower the size of government. They're not going to vote. It's the same idea. It's why term limits will never pass. You're not going to get a congressman to vote to term limit themselves. It'll be very rare, right? Like they're all going to be like, well, I'm one of the good ones, so I should be able to stay forever. So I'm not going to vote for term limits. Same thing. Yeah, you're not going to get too many government employees to vote to cut government spending. It's just not going to happen.
Have you thought about, instead of necessarily, a term limit, but government jobs or like, getting elected into Congress and stuff is more like jury duty, where like you're summons and, hey, you got to do this for 2 years and then you got to go back to your normal way of life. Because that's how it used to be, right? Is like they would, serve their couple of years and then go back to, running their farms or whatever it was. But these people turn it into a career, and that's what they're in politics their whole life. I think the average guy, the trucker who's been trucking for the last 20 years has to serve in Congress for 2 or 3 years and then has to go back to his normal way of life.
I mean, the arguments against term limits and things like that are that you're right. The idea, the founding fathers, it was almost a burden to have to go.
Yeah.
You were like, this sucks. I own a farm. I got to leave my family at home. And, back then it wasn't like you're a 4-hour drive away from home. It's like days and days and days of travel. And you're spending all this time in all of these city centers doing all this work, like debating with all these people, etc. Yeah, it was like a duty that you owed a duty to this country, but it was sacrifice. It wasn't something that usually benefited you. Now it's a way of life. The argument against it is this, like, why should we force ourselves not to take the best person for the job because of some artificial time limit? So, for example, let's freak all the lefties out. Let's say that Trump's at 80% approval at the end of this next term, right? And he would win running away. Theoretically, he would win running away. Why the artificial term limit that he can't run for a third term? What's the argument? I don't understand it. Like, is the argument just, entrenched corruption? Maybe. But then that's an argument against allowing people to have a democratic vote in the first place. If they're willing to vote for a guy that's going to be corrupt, that's on them. Why should I be told that I can't have it? So now obviously we have decided that there is a term limit with the president, but that's the argument against it with Congress and the Senate, etc. It's like, if the people still think that this person's doing a good enough job to represent them in their particular district, why should that artificially be limited?
I don't know. I just think because it doesn't impact them the way it impacts, average Joe, if they pass, some sort of, I don't know, whatever bill, and then they have to go back to their normal job or running their business and stuff, they're like, shit, I probably shouldn't have passed that or shouldn't have voted for that, or even like face your constituents, when you have to go back to normal life. And I think that
the argument that I just outlined, what it fails to see is the institutional power you get for being there for so long and what an advantage that is. Incumbency is a huge advantage. And so what happens is, like, you're able to, it could be something as simple as, you basically could bribe your constituents. Exactly. Well, look at all these pork projects I got for, sure, the rest of the country hates Nancy Pelosi, but she gets a lot of pork projects for her district. So the people there like her. And so it's like, at some point you got to say, well, if you artificially limited this, for me, I always said 3 terms as a congressman, 2 terms as Senate. Yeah. That gets you, or maybe 4 terms in Congress, 2 terms in Senate. That's 20 fucking possible years. That's 20 years in Congress. That's enough. 20 years in Congress is enough. Time to get another job. Go to the private fucking sector and get a job. 20 years. And if you're doing really good after 20 years, then run for president. Then you get another 8. That's 28. Good enough.
And then after that, they get hired on to some, big corporation, somewhere after their term limit's up. Now, what do you think about forced drug tests for like SNAP benefits? Like, you have to show up, take a drug test before they hand you your damn card every week or every month or whatever. I mean, it would probably get bogged down because you'd have a line of people needing to take their test to get their cards. But I think, these people like milk the system, man. When I was using, and a lot of the homeless people I interacted with and dealt with, they all had like Obama phones and like, you know what I mean? They were just junkies on the street and they were just milking the system. They all had, EBT cards and stuff like that.
I'll answer that, but real quick on the last subject there. I don't know if you saw this story. 88-year-old Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who police say is suffering from dementia, was scammed out of $4,400 at home by a group claiming to be a cleaning crew. Norton's running for re-election.
Dude, that's insane.
88 years old, has dementia, scammed, $4,400 stolen, and is going to be running for re-election.
Well, that's again, like Dianne Feinstein, too. Dianne Feinstein was MIA for months, and they were like, she was still in there voting.
Mitch McConnell, man, the dude can't walk. There he is. He just spaces out sometimes. They keep shoving him out there like a fucking mannequin. Joe Biden.
They're losing grip on power, and they're like, we got to keep these people in as long as we can because
this is the logical extension of no term limits. Is that you end up with people, the incumbency is such a powerful tool that you end up with people that literally don't have their mental faculties that are winning elections. We have people running, and the truth is it illustrates something. I mean, Joe Biden does this better than anyone. It illustrates something. Your vote's largely irrelevant, right? Because it's not the person you voted for that's running the show. It's a team of people behind them that you never had a say in who they were. So who the fuck was running the government under Joe Biden? Wasn't Joe Biden, that's for sure.
Did you see all those pardons now are going to get overturned because of the auto pen or whatever?
They won't. That's what the Republicans are saying. There's no way the court will go for it.
Really?
The pardoning power is going to it would have to be I could get into this, but it's just there is no chance. There is as little chance of the Supreme Court allowing these pardons to be overturned as there was that the Supreme Court was going to overrule the 2020 election. And when I was streaming back in 2020, I had people calling in and say, this is it. This Texas case, trust me, bro. It's going to get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to overturn the election and give it to Trump. I was like, yeah, there's no chance. It's just not, because even if you could definitively prove that this was bullshit, the can of worms that this will open, knowing that this power that's outlined in the Constitution for the president, that's basically supposed to be beyond reproach, that the president has the power of the pardon, that once these ones would be overturned, that's going to break a glass ceiling, and the court knows it, that every single pardon then is going to be looked at with intense scrupulousness. And it's going to be like, wait a minute, was he on painkillers that day? Was he on some sort of medication? Was he in his right mind that day? And it's just going to be nonstop litigation of this then. So I think the Republicans are going to push this and wisely show, and they should push it and then, have Republican prosecutors charge people like Fauci and let them argue in court. Let the evidence come out of their corruption and let them go to court and say, no, we need pardon for this. Let that happen. But I don't think I think ultimately when push comes to shove at the end, I don't think that the Supreme Court will do this. Ultimately that's sort of, the issue with why we need term limits and stuff, to have more accountability to the people. The idea of drug testing for EBT, yes, I go further for this. I think you should have to prove that you're applying for jobs. Like a lot of this is theoretically the way it's supposed to be for unemployment benefits. You get so many weeks, and then you have to be applying for a job and prove that you applied for a job. I think the way it should work is this, that if you're able-bodied, it's different if you're not able-bodied. But if you're able-bodied and you're getting food stamps, I think that the first thing I would do is this, somehow limit the amount of things that could be purchased to staples, produce, milk, meats, cheese. That's it. No processed food. No fucking chips, no soda, no candy, nothing like that.
That would help with our Medicare too.
So that's step one, right? You don't like that? You say that's fucking bullshit? Then get a job and pay your own money and buy your fucking chips. That's number one. Number two, right? We should aggressively penalize, including incarceration, people that are selling their food stamps, which is a huge problem.
That was another thing when I was using is guys would sell their cards to get cash to buy dope.
So that's the second thing. Third, yes, you should have to have mandatory drug testing, right? Urine sample, we could send, Go to a facility, get a urine sample. If you can't make it there, then we'll try to provide some sort of government transportation. If you pop for any illegal substance, you're out. No questions asked.
Yep.
No more, right? I say that we should go further. If particularly food stamps are one thing, but other sort of welfare benefits, I think that what we should do is you should have so long to apply for a job. If you claim that nowhere is hiring and you can't, then you have to show up to a facility, a government facility, for 8 hours a day and read.
Well,
No electronic devices. You sit on your ass and you open a book and you fucking read. And there's like someone there, like a teacher, like, what the fuck are you doing? Open that book back up right now. Because you know what would happen? People would be like, well, this is fucking boring. I'm going to get a job. That's what would happen, right?
What about even just community service at like state parks and stuff?
They'll say, I can't. I'm disabled. My leg.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. If that's the case, then sit in your ass and read. No electronic device. Yeah, educate yourself. Here's fucking manuals on how to be a caller or, a customer service rep on a phone. Here you go. Now read that. Then you're going to apply for a job. And if you're incapable of getting a job and you don't have the physical ability to like walk and do anything that would be necessary for community service, etc., then you will sit there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in order to get your money. That's what you'll fucking do. And this is the same thing that like I knew growing up. I knew someone, a single mom, and she had this kid, and the kid had everything. This is back in like 98, 2000. Say he had a PlayStation, and he had a Super Nintendo and Sega and all these games and everything that a kid would want, right? And he would just be like, "Yeah, I'm not going to school." And his mom would be like, "You have to," and he'd be like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do to me? Nothing." Yeah. And so she's like, "I don't know. I'm not gonna like physically, corporal punishment. I'm not gonna hit him, and what can I do?" And I was like, because she had to go to work. So she couldn't be there with him. And I was like, here's what you do. Take every fucking wire for every electronic device, every television, every fucking computer game, every PlayStation. Take it all. Shut the fucking breaker off. Make him sit there in the fucking dark for 8 hours, right? Now watch him for 2 weeks. He'll be begging to go to school at the end of 2 weeks. This is fucking boring. I'm just sitting on my ass every day at home. That kid will go to school. Trust me. But what happens is you go to work and he goes, oh boy, I get to play PlayStation for 8 hours. What do you think he's going to do? There's no consequences. So for me, I think that boredom is a huge motivator, right? Like, and if you don't we've incentivized lazy behavior, right? And so if you take the incentive away and say, that's fine, we'll give you the bare minimum. Here's bread and fucking water and ramen noodles if you just want to sit in your ass every day. But you're going to come to a government facility and you're going to sit there fucking bored and stare at a wall for 8 hours. That's what you're going to do. Now, it's not possible to do what I'm suggesting, but I think in theory, that sort of approach where it's like we stop making this comfortable. We start being like, nope, you're going to have to at least, if you're going to keep coming up with more and more excuses, well, here's jobs you can have, I can't have that job. Well, here's community service, I can't do that. Then at the end of the day, we'll be like, fine. You can get your ass here and you can stare at a wall. Or you cannot, and we ain't sending the check. That's your call. And if you can't achieve that bare minimum, so be it. And I think that we do need to get stricter, that I do agree that we need to be able to offer some sort of program to someone to help them get employed in some way. That doesn't mean that they're getting employed as like some fucking, making $200,000 a year. But if someone is desperate, and I'll be honest, I'll tell you like a situation, this happened to me. So I've been on unemployment one time my entire life. And I was at this job. I've told the story about being at the job where I worked with a really violent guy doing this home health care. Here's how this story ends. After that guy went into a facility, they made me manager at another house in that company. And I'm not going to get into the specific details, but there was a state investigation into this house. The details of it were basically there were the person's insurance ran out, right? So there were medications that didn't come. And my company, who fucked up, because that's the company's job, they deal with all that medical shit. I'm just the dude in the house. I have no say over insurance or medications or anything. All I'm dude's trained to give the medications that's on a list, and I have to make sure that my client's getting the accurate medications. But I don't physically call and order the pills, and that wasn't. And so a bunch of pills didn't show up. I call the pharmacy. What's the deal? Insurance ran out. Call the company. What's up with the insurance? We'll take care of it. In the meanwhile, some of the medications are quite simple. Vitamin D, eye drops, other things like that, skin creams that you can buy. Go buy the shit over the counter. Now, here's what you don't know. In that line of work, you can't buy shit over the counter. I can't give my guy Head and Shoulders shampoo without a script because that's considered medication. I can't give them cough drops without a script. Those are considered medications. Now, you can get a script from a doctor that says, as a PRN, it's okay to buy over the counter this medication and give it as needed. You can do that, but you have to have that script to cover your ass. I can't even have like cough drops for me in a publicly accessed area when I'm working with the client. I have to keep them like in a bag or something in the office so that the client can't get to them. That's how serious they are with these medications. So you have these people that come in from the county from time to time. They're sort of checking up on these clients, which is good because you want there's public dollars going into this. There should be a public entity checking in on it, making sure the client's okay. So I'm sending emails every day like, what the fuck's going on with these medications? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Getting the runaround. So it's like day 6, lady from the county, surprise inspection. She comes in, first thing she sees is these over-the-counter drugs. What's this? I'm like, well, I was told by my boss to purchase these. She's like, what's going on? So I kind of explained the situation. She's like, do you have proof of this? I was like, I got my emails. So I show her my emails. And she's like, here's the deal. I'm calling the state to file a report against your company. Either you're going to co-sign to the report or you're going to be under investigation.
Fuck.
So I was like, okay. So of course I had to co-sign to the report, and so my company there was an investigation into my company and I was laid off with pay until the end of this investigation. Now I'm supposed to get what my average pay was the past 4 months because I was working so many hours. This would have been the equivalent of, basically $1,500 a week. They had me laid off for 10 fucking months. 10 months. And they never sent me a dime. And what they told me was, if you go out and get another job, then we're not going to pay you your back pay. Fuck. So I just sat there. Now, I've been dating my now wife for like 6 months. And now all of a sudden I'm broke as a fucking joke. 10 months without money. So I didn't know what to do. So eventually I called a lawyer. He was like, file for unemployment.
Yeah.
And so I went and filed for unemployment. Long story short, I filed for unemployment and I go in and the way unemployment works, at least in Pennsylvania, if you get fired, it's easier to get unemployment than if you quit. Yeah. So when I filed it, they were like, oh, you quit. So I had to go into the hearing and I had all these papers like to prove like, and there's the company's challenging it. So they sent a representative and like I walk in and I have a witness with me, like my coworker, and I walk in and I'm like, he starts reading the things. He's like, so you quit this job? I was like, no, I didn't quit. And he's like, what do you mean you didn't quit? I'm like, they just stopped paying me and told me that I couldn't get a job anywhere else. I was like, they owe me, I was like, by my estimation, they owe me about like $35,000. And he's like, wait, what? And they're like, are you still an employee there? I'm like, I have no clue. They won't answer the phone. They're pissed at me because of this investigation. And the ladies from the company are like, well, we fired him. And he's like, okay, well, then you have to prove that you fired him for cause. What was the reason that you fired him? And they're like, well, because we sent him, we told him that there was a training and he didn't show up to. And I was like, that's not true. And they're like, we sent him a certified letter. I was like, prove it. I never signed for a letter. And they're like, we sent it to the wrong address. And so the unemployment guy's like, wait a minute, you fired him because you notified the wrong address of something and he didn't respond? And they're like, yeah. So then it's my turn to speak. I'm going for 20 minutes about all these laws they asked me to break. And he's like, listen, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm just going to stop you. They already admitted that they fired you without cause. So, yeah. And then I got the picture. It was like, okay. So I got my unemployment benefits. They ended up sending me my back pay. You know what? They sent me a check for $400. That's what they sent me. So for 10 months,
if you end up getting that money.
10 months, I got $400. And I called an attorney and he was like, well, if you pay me like $5,000 up front, we'll fight this. I didn't have $5,000. Yeah. So I was like, fuck it, unemployment. And I immediately, they do this big song and dance. Well, we'll help you get placed at a job. Great. So like the first week in unemployment comes and I'm talking to this lady on the phone and I was like, well, are there places like this hiring? Can you help me? You want to know what this lady told me on the phone? Well, if I were you, I would just take at least 6 months of unemployment.
Yeah, they kind of encourage it.
And you're like, I'm like, and I was like, what? Like, I was fucking appalled. I couldn't believe they said that because I'm like, if they're saying this to me, they're saying it to everyone. Yeah. So the entire thing was like, You fucking idiot. Free money for 6 months. Why are you trying to get a job?
You pay
And I
into
just,
it.
the whole experience, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it was absolute insanity. And I still can't believe that someone that worked for the government that's supposed to be helping me find a job was like, hey, man, just sit in your ass. There you go. So you wonder where the rot starts? It starts at the top, you know?
Yep.
And
100%.
the whole thing was, it struck me, it's like, be a lazy piece of shit. You know, so I think I was on unemployment for like a month. Then I found another job, and that's that. But
yeah, you gotta be careful too. My wife was on unemployment for a little while, and she ended up getting a job and cashing a check like after her hire date or some shit, and a $1,200 check from unemployment or something like that turned into like an $8,000 fine because she technically had a job when she'd gotten unemployed. This was when we were way younger, like 18, 20 years old. Ended up costing us like $8 fucking grand in like fees and shit like that because
it's crazy.
she cashed a check outside of the period or whatever.
It's really crazy. Well, hey, I'll give you the final word here. Then we got a bunch more callers, so I'll jump on some more people. But what do you got going on here? Coming up, I'll put your link out there. What can people expect from your channel here coming up soon?
Yeah, just more stories of how I was a degenerate and how I'm trying to turn my life around. I actually just did a video this morning talking about that FBI or that background check where I almost got myself in trouble. So if you want to go over there and check that out, yeah, just more stuff of how I'm trying to be a better human and how
Well, good for you, man.
how I screwed up my life.
Everybody's screwed up in one way or another. So, but no, I always appreciate talking to you, man. And like I said, I'll respond. I've been very busy. It should get lighter for me Thursday. I should have more time. So,
It's all good, man. I know you're busy. I wasn't really expecting much.
well, hey, we'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, sir, man. Take it easy.
We'll see you. We're only at 18% of our goal. What the H? What the H is going on here? Let's read some super chats real quick. Bandit $2 says, how dare you, EOD? You deserve this struggle session. Yeah, EOD's rough. And Wicked Wally, $5 says, Rob, we don't need a story about people challenging each other and eating shit back and forth for short-term gains. We know how the internet works. Well, I'm trying. Now listen. Here's the deal. You guys have fucked me over royally. And my team that I have working for me has let me down. I'm not talking about EOD or Are We Not Men or Naughty Term or Achilles or Zen's Forehead. They're all great. But the most important member of my team has let me down. And your lack of donations have made me do something rash. So, we're going to need some more donations so I get to the next caller. But I have to go get a drink. And I just want to let you know I've made an important change based on the lack of financial support that one of the key members of my team was making. So I'll be right back. Gotta grab a drink, use the restroom. We'll take the next call. And this channel, results are what matter. And if there's key members of the team that aren't holding their weight, well, then they're out. So we brought in a new key member of the team. Hopefully he fits in well. From Bumbly, $2 says, Rob's got chair money. Gremlin, what's up? $10. Thank you so much. DD says, chair. Look, see, the new chair's already bringing in big bucks. Mem Birdman, $20 says, chair grip. No one knows how much chair carries the show. Yeah, chair's carrying something now. Garbage in the dumpster. Geoverse, $10 says, all glory to God and his warriors that bring truth to purpose. Thank you so much, Geoverse. And AJC says, no, not chair, for $20. Maybe if we reach our goal today, maybe it's not too late to save everybody's favorite chair. Golly 46 says, boo, L day shift. Night shift having to pick up the slack again. $46. Thank you so much. Look at that. And then Buddha, $2 says, chair is racist. Only wanted to talk about BLM. Now notice I didn't go with the white chair. I felt the tan chair. It was sort of like, I feel like that chair was like Donald Trump. It was spray tanned. It wasn't really like, black. Not like this chair. This is authentic black. And AJC, $5 says, come on, guys. The best debate chair is MIA. We are out of here. Maybe you guys could save them. Next up. Now listen, I got to be reasonable. 10 minutes per caller max. I know we spent a lot of time with Fallen Either, but we've just got 3 more callers on the line. So we're 10-minute max here. First up, we got my debate partner later tonight, Grid Motorsports.
Well, they're just all rotted and stuff. Just wood.
What's up?
All right, thank you.
Oh, he's on the phone.
Sorry about that, Rob. I was pulling through to get rid of some pallets that looks like I'm going to have to go dump at my property to burn, which is totally fine. We'll burn them later.
I think it's funny. You always have like real shit busy. My busy shit's like, I got to research some dude that wants to talk about how we should all integrate with computers and become cyborgs. Like, that's my busy. Your busy's like, I actually have like real man shit to do. Like, I always think that's funny when I talk to you,
man, there's never a dull moment, right? Like, life is what we make it, and I try to make all of it every day. So, but I'm just going to go dump these pallets out at my property since I'm already over on this side of town, and we'll have a nice bonfire later, and it'll be fun.
So what are you expecting tonight from this debate? What do you think?
I've been thinking about it. I think what we talked about earlier is probably right. I don't know the Max guy, so I don't know where he's going to take it. I would be surprised if Craig from Craig FTFD will try and take it global. I think that'd be a loser for him. So I think he's just going to concentrate on the over-the-counter arguments of Gen 6 and things like that, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I do have something I wanted to talk to you about. It's very first. So I had Calvin Collage or whatever on the show yesterday, and that guy is just dumb. He is not smart. He is absolutely he made a lot of claims, and every time I call him on a claim, he'd have to go look it up and find one meager example from like CNN as an example of Republicans talking shit. And I'm like, well, those aren't Republicans; those are talking heads. They're not politicians. They're not politicos. But talking about earlier, you guys were just getting into. And I have been talking a lot lately about all the government spending and all of the nonsense. And do you remember the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps? Have you ever heard about that?
No. It sounds roughly familiar, but I couldn't say specifically.
Well, it's way back in like the post-depression era. You had a lot of unemployed young men out there. And so basically what it was these people would, it was FDR, I believe, signed it into existence. And they built government buildings like post offices, they built bridges, they cleared roadways, they did all of this work in exchange for a job, a few bucks a week, and food and room and board, right?
Okay.
And it's like kind of like being in the army, but not. And it worked exceptionally well. And the rules were that if you left, you were out, right? So if you just decided you just didn't want to do it anymore, and you were just, fuck this, I'm out. You were out permanently, couldn't come back.
Okay.
If you brought a woman back to the camper or building or whatever, if you were messing around with women when you were supposed to be, getting your life together, you were out. They threw you out right immediately. And there were a lot of other things where you would be on the outs. And I thought it was hailed as a socialist win. However, I've always thought of it as something that is something more that someone like me would support, because sure, it's a little bit of my tax dollars, but we're getting something for those dollars, right? Like the money that we're investing, we're getting something out of it. And
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought, and sort of the idea of public works in general, it's sort of seen as a left-wing policy. But if the alternative, like from a right-wing perspective, if it's A, I just give people money to sit on their ass, or B, we spend that same money and then have those people engage in projects that actually help build a skill for them while at the same time benefiting the country, obviously I'll take the latter. If I had to choose. And I think that we have now transitioned to instead of look, you're in a temporary bad spot, particularly with something like the Depression. And so you're willing to work, and we will provide for you as a short stopgap measure until a private job comes along. And by the way, we'll do something that's beneficial to the country. And by the way, we'll teach you a skill. To now it's just, here's a bunch of money. Now sit in your ass at home. And by the way, you deserve it because you're a victim. Yeah, I mean, I think that incentivization is sort of why we see 1 in 8 households at this point that are on food stamps, and the immigrant communities, over 50% of them are on some form of welfare. It's not good. It's not good at all.
Right. Yeah, no, and I agree with that. And I think that it's very much like what you were talking about. I have a problem with somebody getting paid money every month to sit around on their ass and eat fudge rounds and grow to be 400 pounds or whatever. And now, of course, now they medically can't work, right? Now you can't even ask them to work because, well, they're clinically overweight. So how dare you ask them to go get a job? It's a very sick cycle that we've propagated for ourselves, and something needs to happen. I don't know what, but something needs to happen. And that's just my point of view on it. Yeah,
it's definitely, it's not sustainable. It's not.
Yeah.
And from both sort of ends of this, right? It is not it doesn't benefit the people that are getting this. There might be short-term benefit. I need my fucking fudge rounds. Send me my money. And it's like, well, we're benefiting those people because they need these food stamps and blah, blah, blah. But what you're doing is you're dooming them to a life of, it's no different than the parent that's constantly bailing out their kid. Right? The kid's never going to advance, right? If your kid's just constantly living at home and eating all of your food, never has to pay a bill, never has to pay groceries, guess what? That's going to be their life. They're probably very rarely going to break out of that sort of system. Same thing here. If the government's 100%. Constantly providing for all of these people, it's not doing a service to them. It's basically treating them as children. And it's basically dooming them to a perpetual cycle of depending on others for their well-being, as opposed to actively encouraging, providing a stopgap, an emergency measure, while facilitating their actual transition to actually doing things that are productive for themselves and for their community. So I totally agree with you.
What do you think about these guys that are going around now, like Calvin, and they basically lie and put, well, first of all, they represent that people like me and you can't see the social benefit, which is what they call it. I don't call it that, but that's what they call it, of programs like the CCC or something like that. But we want to get value for our dollars spent, right? We don't want people sitting on their couch, as you said, playing video games or just, not doing anything worthwhile. And in fact, getting worse, making their lives worse. The government is not helping them. They're making lives worse. And And why is it that we can't as Republicans, conservatives, they say that we can't have those viewpoints, or we don't have those viewpoints, and yet they will assign their the worst leftist values to us, trying to say that we're the ones that are tone policing, we're the ones keeping people from exercising free speech and all of that sort of thing. When it's honestly, I never see that from the right. I only see it from the left, and I'm really curious about what your viewpoint is on that.
Well, to be fair, right? You have Trump that's doing things that I don't necessarily agree with, like sort of pushing that it should be hate speech to burn the American flag, and that you had Pam Bondi come out, and of course she was excoriated by most Republicans that said, hate speech isn't protected. So it's definitely said, and I think that we in the right should push back. But yeah, overwhelmingly the truth is that the left does this. They say that our language is violence, that we should be censored, we shouldn't be platformed. They chase us off places like college campuses. They ignore the fact when someone, or celebrate when someone who's actually trying to be a free speech warrior like Charlie Kirk gets shot and assassinated on a college campus trying to facilitate open and fair debate. And they basically, I've had lefties on my channel say, what can you expect when Cam Higbee gets ran out of a historical black college? Of course, you can't be conservative on college campuses. Yes, they have the institutional power, or they've had the institutional power to be able to control these spaces, whether it be social media spaces, academia, whatever. And they're more than happy to wield that control. And they'll find excuses as why it's justified. Well, we had to pressure social media companies under the Biden administration to stop misinformation about COVID, or people would have died. And we had to pressure about misinformation about the 2020 election because it led to a terror attack and an insurrection on the White House. Now, I've said this for a long time. Okay, what if Trump gets in office and says, you know what? We think people that complain about systemic racism is causing riots, so we're going to ban people that say that. Or we think people that criticize ICE and immigration policy is leading against insurrections and riots against ICE, so we're going to pressure social media to ban those people. Right? How would the left react to this? They'd lose their fucking mind, right? And they know what they're doing. And you'll see it like, we will easily be able to prove in this debate tonight. You'll see. They'll make all these claims citing flawed studies in January 6 about right-wing violence. And when we bring up examples of left-wing violence, it'll be deflect, smear, well, those don't really count, prove that they were left-wing, et cetera, et cetera. It's always the projection onto you, what they themselves are doing and supporting. So, yeah.
Totally always agree. The same story. Always the same lies, projection, and trying to pivot the responsibility off of themselves and project their failings upon their opponents. Absolutely, that is true. Hey, I'm going to jump off. You've got a lot of people, and I got to get some stuff done.
Well, great. We'll see you tonight. Again. I will.
Yeah,
I'll probably hop on. I'll probably start streaming about 8:45. Try to hop backstage with James on Monday Debate about 8:55. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll be. I'm gonna fire up at 7:30 my time, and I'll jump back there at 8 on with James. So all right, we'll see you then.
Grit. We'll see you then, man. Thanks. Yeah, as far as me and Grit are debating tonight on who commits more violence, I actually just got an email from James. I think it's going to be limited to the United States. Who commits more violence, the left or the right? Actually, it's actually interesting. I hate to do this, but it's an interesting thought. Exactly what is the prompt? I don't know. Because the wording here could be interesting. Oh boy, that's bad wording. That's bad wording. This is the prompt. Is the left more violent than the right? Does anyone see a problem with that prompt? It doesn't say political violence. So, is it literally just people that are left more violent than the right? Of course. I mean, blacks make up 13% of the population and commit 50% of violent crimes. Overwhelmingly are Democrats and left wing. They might say, yeah, but that's not political violence. So that's not the prompt. The prompt is just, are they more violent? Yes. My nose is missing? Yeah, what the fuck? What happened? I'll keep it to the political. I will. Don't worry. We'll be all right. So, all right. Bergman, $10 says, commiserations for the game Sunday night. I liked your throwbacks better than all white look, though. Most people hated the Steelers, that Bumblebee with the tan pants. Most people hated it. It's the Tomlins, man. What do you expect? Sniper Killer, $2 says, money towards an upgraded shock collar for EOD. Oh, shit. EOD, no. Prediction for tonight's debate?
What's your prediction for the fight, then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
Thanks, Mr. T. That sums it up. Let's keep getting those super chats in. Next caller, the great Geoverse. What's happening today, man? You're looking very vertical today. So
yes, shout out to Samsung for their design on a great new foldable phone. Hopefully it offers entertainment. How's my audio today? I've been having some issues with that.
It's popping pretty bad, yeah.
Jeez, you cannot make it up. So hopefully I can speak slowly and it'll still come through with sound. I wanted to discuss a bit about, you're mentioning the welfare qualifications, and as someone that does receive, a type of funding from the government, I receive VA disability. So where VA disability comes in versus welfare is most liberals on TikTok will tell me, why is it okay for a veteran to be taken care of for life, but a common citizen not? And I always say it's because
Gio, I can answer this question, but it's popping so bad. I think the audience is. So let me answer. So the general, just nod if you think this is correct. Oh, the general point is this: the difference between someone who served our country as a veteran and getting benefits for life versus someone who's just, on food stamps or something like that. Yeah. So there's two things to say. First is, one is something that's promised you like an employment from being an employee of the U.S. government, except it's the ultimate employment, which is one of the most important things that a person could do for our country, which is sacrifice for our country to actually put themselves in harm's way to defend our freedom as a member of the armed forces. So in that sense, this isn't some giveaway. It's not a giveaway. This is something that was earned based on the service that you put forth. It's no different than if I sign up for work at a company and I'm promised a pension. It's not that they're giving me money just because I'm lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's because I put in a service to that country. And so that's obviously the answer and the difference. However, I do think that there's a claim to be made, and I've been looking into this recently, that a lot of people that get like disability benefits through military service are basically lying. They basically never saw active combat, and they got carpal tunnel or something like that while they sat behind a desk. And I think that's shit, because I know a lot of people that actually served active duty in places like Afghanistan that had a terrible time just getting their medications covered. Like the way that the VA screwed them over and that the government screwed them over and made them jump through hoop after hoop after hoop just to give them the bare minimum of coverage. And then I hear stories of people that it's like, well, I never served. I was stationed in, in some, some facility in Atlanta or, in Georgia. And, basically I was just there for 4 years. But while I was there, I twisted my ankle playing basketball, and now I get disability the rest of my life. That I don't know. Now, my default is anyone who signed up to serve for the military has my respect, and whether or not they served in active duty or not is irrelevant, because most of the time you never really had a say in that. Most people don't sign up and they say, I demand that I not be sent to active duty. And the military's like, oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Like, that's not how it works, right? Like, it's like once you sign up, they can send you. That's it. You could be like, wait a minute, I didn't intend that. What doesn't matter, right? So I think that there's a level of respect that's earned just from signing up. But I think that we would be foolish not to admit that there could be people abusing those benefits as well, particularly in the form of not the benefits guaranteed to you by enlisting and then fulfilling your contract, but people that go a step further and say, fake some sort of injury to claim some sort of disability benefits for life. So.
Right. And I agree 100%. That's why, like, for me, for example, I'm not someone that's 100% connected because I did not receive my, connection due to combat. Mine was more small, tinnitus, scoliosis, so issues that will affect me for my entire life,
Sure.
or are not aggravated enough to where I can't find, gainful employment. But just real quick to touch back on your debate tonight, if I may, because I'm very excited to watch that. I'll be tuning in. And for those of you that will not tune in, why are you even here? If we're not here to see Rob unsheath that sword, I mean, what's the point? But going forward, I will think and I'll predict that they'll bring up historical precedents of violence on the right versus the current rise in our lifetime. So they're always going to pivot to the historical time machine of, well, back then it was worse, and always reflect to avoiding discussion about today. If we do a small mock debate, I'll mute up or I'll even drop. But I want to hear how you would contend with historical violence in cohesion with today.
Okay. Thanks so much, Geoverse. Yeah. So 2 things to say. Yes, there is the claim. So there's all sorts of claims you can make. Left versus right. I just got the message that it has been agreed that we are talking about the United States, because I believe at least one of my opponents is not from the United States. So the first thing that I thought about was like, well, is this going to be globally? Or is it going to be limited to the United States? Because if necessary, I can find a list of all the right-wing politicians that have been attacked or assassinated in like the past 10 years, if we need to go that route, and plus examples of left-wing riots in places like Europe, etc. But they said that it's limited to the United States, so we won't have to worry about that. Then there's a question of how do you define left and right? Now, that's a big question. For example, Islamic terrorism, is that right or left-wing? They'll say that's right-wing. Even though most of the sort of organizations that keep track of these statistics separate Islamic terrorism out of this. I would suggest that even though you may traditionally call it right-wing, the actual bifurcation that's necessary to talk about isn't so much left and right, it's sort of the political class that we have people that have lumped themselves into. So yes, it's ironic that Democrats in this country that represent allegedly more of the left wing sort of kowtow to groups that maybe people would traditionally consider right-wing, like Islam. But they do. And so why should that be lumped in with me on the right wing? Seems pretty ridiculous. So, for example, if we would say Islam is an example of right wing, and then we'd say 9/11 is right wing violence. Look at all the dead people, right? But why? Muslims overwhelmingly vote Democrat. So why would we lump that in as somehow more adherent to me? So there'll be that question. Then there's the question of historical violence. Now you can see how the question of defining right and left will really come into play. Because if they say historical violence, I'm like, sure, why don't we look at examples of like racial violence, like the Klan? I'll say, well, those are Democrats. No, that was right wing. The Democrats were right wing back then. And it's a shell game, right? It's a shell game with sort of taking the time frame, taking the definitions of right and left. So my prediction is that they'll monkey around with the terms left and right and what that means. I don't know that they'll so much as go back historically. If they do, that's easy. Like, look, it's clear that the nature of the prompt is the left more violent than the right, which implies some sort of being current, right? Going back 300 years. I mean, how far are we willing to go back, right? If I make a claim that like the Iroquois were more left-wing than right-wing, and so when they butchered the Algonquin, like clearly there's got to be some recency to this. And so I'll argue like the past 20 years. In fact, I would argue the past 10 years is what we're talking about, but we'll see. I'll be able to argue that. But they'll primarily rely on 2 things. They're going to rely on studies that you've seen that have been debunked over and over again that say that the right's more violent than the left. And these studies are absolute horseshit. I'm prepared to deal with that. And then they're going to talk about January 6th. And they're going to say Trump's a crude man. That's it. That's what their strategy will be. So, it's the same as it ever was. That's what it's going to be. All the studies say it'll be the appeal to authority fallacy. These studies say, and so I'll say, you want to look through those studies? Let's do it. Let's look through them. Right? So I hope they're prepared, because that's what their argument's going to rest on. So we'll see. Rizzy, really excited about Netanyahu. Said it like 50 times. I get a feeling that Rizzy's not a fan of Israel. This morning, he said it like 10 times. Rob, will you talk about it this morning? It's huge. It's going to cause sports huge news. Netanyahu said he's going to bomb. Holy shit. I'd like to hear Rob talk about this. Rob, what are you talking about this shit? Netanyahu, did you see Netanyahu? Rob, will you talk about this? Oh my God, someone get Rob's attention. Netanyahu said he's going to bomb. Holy shit, did you see this, Rob? Rob, did you see this? Get his attention. I'm typing in all caps. Rob, did you see it's going to cause more Netanyahu? Oh my God, what Israel did. Yeah, we got you, Rizzy. We got you. I haven't seen what Netanyahu ordered today. I assume that inevitably both Hamas and Israel would violate the ceasefire. I'm sure Hamas is doing shitty stuff. I'm sure Israel's looking for any excuse. I said that it's likely that this ceasefire wouldn't last long. Okay? We good? We good on that? You wanted a Rob Spurg. You know what I wanted? A timeout for you, Rizzy. So we both got what we wanted. There you go. All right. Keep getting the super chats in. I don't know. To be honest, I didn't see. I saw that you were spurging out in the chat, yelling about it. So I went to X and I put in recency. I found from AlJazeera.com, Gaza people terrified after Israel threatens to bomb enclave. Then I saw from the New York Post, Netanyahu orders immediate and powerful strikes in Gaza after Hamas allegedly attacked the IDF. Did they? I don't know. You don't know. You hate Israel, so you're going to scream Israel's violating it. Maybe. Israel has every incentive to say, nope, we were attacked. Hamas has every incentive to say, nope, we were attacked. I don't know. The spurging out in the chat by the people that want to constantly focus on Israel, I don't have the time of day for. I just don't know. So, but I'm glad that you came in with alt caps and for the past fucking 10 minutes spurged out while I was talking to someone about a different issue, about how you needed to talk, and then admitted that you just wanted me to kind of give a response like that. So I hope you liked it. All right. Next up. Where's this person? Person in the background of the chat. Your name is Person. Who are you that's in the call-in? We'll bring you up next. It's not going to be Alley Cat. It's not AJ. It's not Jeff. It's not Miggy. Is it GA? How is someone showing up in the private chat that's not showing up on the... Unless he just backed out and I didn't see it. Well, feel free to call back in, Person. We'll bring you to the front of the queue. Oh, boy. I haven't had a chance to argue with someone I disagree with in some time. Anyways, while we wait for that, next up, AJ Nukes. What's happening, AJ? How you doing? Is that weird?
Like on these backroom arguments and discussions with these people. I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess they're only attracted to the chat room when I'm there. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's weird because I think you would have to show up as the, I don't know, whatever. No big deal. So what's on your mind today? It's great to hear from you.
We're going to do a daily reading real quick.
Sure.
And then I'm going to touch on something. You guys are touching on everything I wanted to talk about earlier today anyway. So Proverbs 1, starting at verse 4. For a giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So touching on, I literally, I'm not even kidding. Like, you guys are so in tune with me today. So literally my 17-year-old is having an issue last night, I guess at 1 or 2 in the morning. He woke up the whole house. And so I literally took his door off its hinges, took all of his electronics out of his room. Everything's gone. And I told him, just come straight home after school, dude. Like, you got some, and you know, Mom's like texting him and he's just sitting in class going, I don't know what's happening. He's just losing his mind.
This is funny.
And the ironic part is, like, they just won state like 2 days ago. They won state at a 3A championship. They won, and I was like, oh, cool, like, you know, congratulations, all this good stuff. And then he has to sabotage everything. So I'm like, great, you know, now I got to go be the quote unquote authoritarian father. But not spurging out or freaking out like so many others, I guess, today. It's a waste of time. What was the other thing you guys were talking about? Now I lost my train of thought.
We had like the EBT stuff. We were talking about that. Benefits.
Yeah. So, yeah, I said end it all. Like, just restart the whole thing. Kind of like what they did with the Department of Education. Like, get rid of the federal and just have the states start running it. That, of course, is going to open up a lot of more corruption on local levels, I guess. But I mean, it is what it is. I think you're going to see perfect trend lines, put it that way, statistically, with blue states versus red states and inner city, like cities versus rural. I think it's going to be directly reflective with corruption trends. But I'm also sitting here doing all of my college work in the background with epidemiology and stuff right now. So I'm like going through all of this stuff and looking into all these statistics and, you know, going through the peer-reviewed studies and having to do criticisms with how many different peer review data points you can pull up and what all this boring stuff is that everyone hears about. And they're like, what are you talking about? Go away, you know, kind of attitudes. But the reality is, when you really get down into the statistics of it, and this is something that I really think does reflect directly into debate, is, hey, I can come up with 3 different citations from 3 different database sources from triple peer-reviewed sources. It just depends on where you're going with it. And I think that's very reflective now with the current trends in pop culture and people's attitudes in general when it comes to all of these topics of discussions, from EBT, SNAP, which I know everybody's been talking about that for years. I mean, yeah. When Obama was in office, we saw people coming out of the grocery store with steaks and all this stuff, and they're not paying for it. And guys are going up and ripping them out of grocery carts and being like, that's not for you. That's for the working man. And they don't even fight. Like, they just look at it. They're like, yeah, feel the shame, asshole. Like, what the hell, man? Like, why are you doing this?
I saw, Jeff Rademacher. Actually, you were probably reading what I was reading today. I think it was Matt Walsh said that, like, we should go back to actual stamps because there was a stigma. The stamps didn't look like cash. And so when you had to bring out your book of food stamps, people noticed.
Yep.
Right? Now you got that debit card.
Yep.
Looks like you're just swiping. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know at this point. I will say this. I think that probably the way society's gone, I don't think it'd make much of a difference. I think people would celebrate it anyway. They'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I got my stamps. Whatever. Yeah. Right? I don't think they would care, because shame is something that's sort of been removed largely from society. In fact, it's almost something to be proud of, your lack of shame and your, you know, lack of, like, societal politeness, you know. And now it's to flaunt against that seems to be something good. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, I remember growing up, there was a woman in our little town who had like 5 or 6 kids. It was a single mom. And I remember it was always a struggle. My poor brother, who was 2 years younger than me, 80% of my brother's clothes was clothes that were mine. Right? It's like, there you go. And I got a lot of shit from Goodwill that I was wearing, you know. It was a really big deal. Like, if I got a brand new pair of jeans, I was like, oh, cool. I remember, and it never really happened, and thank goodness in retrospect. But when I was in high school, those like Jinkos jeans, the super ass baggy ones, they were very popular. And when I was in like 8th grade, I really wanted a pair of those. And my mom was like, no, these are expensive. They're stupid. It's like the bell-bottom shit. Eventually, you'll look back and think they're dumb. But this woman with all these kids, they were dressed to the nines, man. Nike shit, everything. No one worked. No one worked in the house. Government benefits, child support, whatever.
Yep.
And, you know, it was really I remember that, like, watching my family work so hard and then seeing that. It was like, huh. And that lady, you know, I remember one day there was it was right in the main road. So the way it works was my town was basically 3 roads. There was the main highway, which, trust me, that's being generous. Like, the idea of highway. This ain't no, like, you know, major throughway. But it's like, okay, it's a route. It's a state route. So there's that road. Then there's an alley. Then there's another alley. And the whole town was basically houses on both sides of the roads running parallel those 3 roads. So on that main state route, right towards the corner of town where the post office would be, on the other side of the alley there along the state route was a house and then the pizza shop in town. So we'd spend a lot of time. You get done with high school, we had a job. Let's go to the pizza shop. We'll get a pizza and we'll hang out. And they had like a jukebox in there, and that's where the kids would hang out. So I'm walking there, and that house, this woman lived at this house with these kids. And there's a baby, maybe 2 years old, in diapers on the fucking yellow line of the state route. And my heart dropped. And I run out and I grab this baby and I like run back to the sidewalk. And I'm like, oh, like something terrible must have happened to the mom. And I look up and the mom's on the porch like this with her nails and goes, thanks. Doesn't even look up. And I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And it was very much like that color. I'm like, how is this possible? And you know, another thing that happened was there was a lot of like PlayStation was really big at the time. So this was before, this is really showing my age. This is going to blow your mind if you're younger and you're watching. You ready for this? You used to get physical copies of your games, right? You didn't digitally download them. So what we would do was you'd plan out with the neighbor kids. I'll get this game and then I'll play it for a while. Then I'll trade it and you get that game. And then that way we can play more games. So you'd write your name, right? Your initials on the game. And I had one friend, I wasn't really friends with that woman and her kids, but I had a friend that was. And I came up missing a bunch of these games that I left my one friend borrow. And the other friend's like, hey, I was at their house and they got like 10 games of yours with your initials on. Right. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I waited till my friend was there and they're upstairs playing and I knock on the door and I was like, yeah, I think the woman answered. I was like, I think your kid may have mistakenly taken some of my games. I was trying to get him back. And she flips the fuck out on me. Fuck you. How dare you accuse my son of stealing? I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think there's some games here. Maybe it was a mistake. I'd like to get them back. And so she yells at me and I leave. And my friend that was in the house as this was going on said she went upstairs and was like, do you have games of his? And her kid was like, yeah. And he handed them to her and she snapped them all. Snapped them in half. Threw them in the fucking garbage. So the end of that story was I watched Child Services come and take one of her kids away. I sat in the fucking porch and applauded as I watched. I was like 15, like, there you go, bitch. Eat that shit.
I'm gonna make mention. If you want to know how old I am, I'm 48. Of course, I just turned 48. My first job, I watched my older brother, who's a year and a half older than me. He did newspaper routes. This is in Redmond, Washington. This is before anybody knew what Redmond was, before Microsoft, before IBM, before Boeing, before Nintendo, for all that. We were living there. So it's very much like when you talk about your hometown, I reflect back to where Redmond used to be like that, way back in the late 70s, early 80s. So I watched my brother and I was really looking forward. I said, man, I'm going to get a paper route. I'm going to get $20 a week. And back then $20 a week was like, it was a lot of money.
Of course. Yes.
So time was coming and I was getting 10 and, you had to be 11 or 12 with your parents' permission to get a paper route. You got to get up super early and super cold in the winter, blah, blah, blah. And my buddy Seth Logan lived across the street from me basically. And he goes, hey man, you want to come with me? And I said, where are you going? He goes, Nintendo. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, their headquarters is here. And I was like, where? And he goes, it's right down the street, just on the other side of Bellevue. And I was like, oh, sure. What are you going to do there? And he goes, they need game testers. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. So I walk into Nintendo headquarters with Seth Logan. First game I ever tested, Super Mario 3.
Oh, snap. A winner.
And they paid, guess how much they paid me?
No clue.
$50 an hour.
What a job.
Serious. And I was like, wait a minute. I was hoping for 20 a week. And so, of course, I make this money and it is immediately, taken by my parents because it's way too much money for a kid to have. And I remember looking around being like, this is all just kind of getting scammy. Like, what are we really doing? That was really like the age I started looking into. What is it? Why are these people paid so much more? How do you qualify for this? What is it? And now we just test games for free with everyone, right? It's just beta testing.
I have a friend that does game testing. He gets paid for it though. But it's funny because he'll work, on some big games and he'll kind of know what's coming out in that game before it does, because a lot of your big games that are constant updates, like a Minecraft or a Fortnite or something like that. But well, AJ, I do.
One last question for you, Rob. Were you a TMNT?
Oh yeah.
I figured that was my first thought when you started talking video games. Like, this guy played a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The old, like the pizza that's put in the area where it guaranteed to kill you, and it adds a little kid.
All you have to do is walk across that one little step instead of hop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been there. Gamers don't know today, man. You just had to keep trying. There was no website to go to. So one of your friends figured it out. I remember the first time one of my friends threw a fireball in Street Fighter, and it about blew my mind. I was like, what? Crazy. So, all right, AJ, I got to let you go. I got
Yep,
some
enjoy
lefties
it.
to yell at, so I'll get to them real quick. Hey, take it easy, man. All right, keep getting the super chats in. Here's our anonymous person. Where'd they go? They ran. Person, please, I saw you just popped in. You ran. Oh, boy, I was ready to bring you to the front of the line. Anyways, keep getting those super chats in, trying to get to our goal of $357 tonight. We'll go 5 minutes a caller here from the rest of the show. Jeff Rademacher, how you doing, Jeff? I only seen the chat.
Hey.
I think first time chatting with you, though. It's
Yeah,
great
first
to-
time. Yeah, good to talk with you. I said in the chat that AJ being 48 and having that much dark hair, I was like, oh, I kind of resent him. Oh,
Ah, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
You? How old are you?
51.
Okay, I'm
So
41.
just a little bit older.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to be totally gray by the time I'm 51. I absolutely know.
I mean,
That's fine.
hey, 'tis the season to be able to get paid for like some extra Santa stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, why not? Right.
Yeah,
I've been
right.
Well, maybe I'll be quiet. Maybe I pretended to be Santa for kids once or twice. Just pretended
nice.
though. Obviously
Yep.
Santa's real. But I
Right.
did pretend and
Right.
help out at one point. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, sometimes he's a little busy, so he has
Right.
minions doing the work.
It was funny because
Right.
it was my cousin's restaurant and she asked me to help out. I was like, okay. So I did it and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Kids were brutal. They're like, how come you came in a car? Where's the reindeer? And I was like, the reindeer are in the forest, and so from the forest to here, I took a car, and they're like, how come your beard's brown underneath the white? And I was like, the snow turns it white on the outside. So and I'm like, damn, these kids are like 7. They're crushing me, And then all things like it ends, and my cousin that's running it comes up and like, puts her arm around me. He's like, here, I got you something. And hands me a bottle of Jägermeister. So here's drunk old Santa walking out with this bottle of booze, walking out. I'm like, yeah, great job. These kids would be like, Santa's like a vagrant. What is going on here? He showed up in an Oldsmobile, a 94 Oldsmobile. What the hell's going on? So,
Well,
what can
I
you
mean,
do?
hey, he'll take any help that he can get.
Yes, yeah.
So I wanted to talk about just my experience with EBT, or at least like trying to get assistance, because about, I don't know, 20 years ago. So I lost my job in February, the end of February, after my first son had been born in January. So I lost my job. My wife lost her job maybe 3 months later. Just because of cutting down and whatever. And so I was working at a daycare, working $8 an hour. She went to try to go get help, and all she could get was formula, like 5 cans of formula. It was like, how in the world? And I talked with a friend of mine who this was in Memphis, and he was a person of color, and he said, oh, the first mistake that she made was that she said she was married. I mean, that's as soon as you say that, and it's like, oh yeah, no, definitely the government takes marriage into account to try to benefit people.
It's so weird. It's like so much of our government is sort of intentionally having the inverse reactions that they should to things, right? And so like it's like crime, right? Where you'll see these people that somehow you're like you'll see someone that gets out on bail like 40 times and commits these violent crimes. And it's like over and over and over again, they're left out and given every chance. And then everybody has that story. Well, they'll know that one person that like, yeah, they did something shitty, right? Like maybe they stole from their bank or something. It's like 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And it's like, it's like that with like sort of benefits as well. Like, again, I gave the example. I know someone who was just trying to get VA benefits. This was a person who literally watched one of his friends die, like on patrol in Afghanistan. And this poor guy's trying to get benefits. No luck, and it's like, he just wants his medications covered. And he luckily finally got help with people. Like, basically he went to someone who like, you gotta know how to fill out the paperwork. You gotta know the right keywords to say. That's what's important. It's not actually talking to a human being and being like, listen, here's why I'm on this medication. I see this psychiatrist through the VA. I'm having trouble sleeping. And, none of that matters. It's, do you hit the right keywords when you're filling out the paperwork? And, another thing is, I knew someone that applied for disability that seriously needed it. They were seriously injured. And, it was denied. And that person's like talking to me and they're like, I don't know how this is the case. I know people that are on disability because their wrist is kind of sore. And here I am basically incapable of walking. How can I not get disability? And basically, after looking into it, what it was told was, well, everybody gets denied unless you get an attorney. So you get denied, and then it's get an attorney. And then they'll know how to massage the system to make sure. So it doesn't matter that you could go in there. Like, you could literally go in and be like, I worked for, make Boilermakers, and there was an explosion and it blew my legs off. And they'd be like, I don't know. And then the guy with the attorney goes in with carpal tunnel, and it's like, well. So, I mean, it really is. And you do feel bad for people that legitimately need a social safety net that have to navigate through this Byzantine system where it's more about like checking the right boxes than actually like having a story that's like, look, this is a temporary thing for me, or there's some like terrible thing that happened to me that makes this necessary. So yeah, I totally understand. I get where you're coming from.
I mean, it's just annoying just knowing, that people do need this assistance, and then there are the people that grift on it. And I mean, grift in the bad way, not grifting here. Speaking
not like here, by the way, send in money.
Giving. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Well, hey,
send
Jeff,
your money. We're being entertaining.
There we go. Thank you. I got to let you go.
All
I
right.
got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more people to get to. But Jeff, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
All right. We'll see you. GA said he was going to make it real quick. What's up, GA?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. What's happening?
What's going on, Rob? So I just want to let you know, thank you for everything that you do. I just actually found you not too long ago when everything went down with the whole tomato panel. So glad to say I found you, and I really do appreciate your very concise points. So just giving you a little background on myself. I am recently Republican in this last election. I was a Democrat for a good chunk of my life. Then after seeing what happened, I changed over parties. As a newly Black conservative, what can I do on my end to kind of overcome the stigma that Republicans have, to overcome this negativity that's automatically associated with us because of all the bad bullshit of the past and the ignorance that these people have? How can I talk to my fellow Black people to help, kind of help them understand what's actually going on, not what they're being told via talking points?
Well, so 2 things, right, that I think is really 2 good first steps. First is understand that disproportionately Black people tend to have more conservative social values. And so there's an awful lot of Black people that are Christian. There's an awful lot of Black people, even if they're not Christian, would have what we would consider traditional social values on things like marriage, on a lot of the social issues that we see. And so I think that the first step is to say, like, look, a party of conservatives is actually a home for the majority of the sort of cultural beliefs that Blacks have, right? And the stigma of sort of like, but it's all about this racism and shit, that's bullshit. However, the second part of this is you have to be honest. And one of the legitimate criticisms of the Republican Party, and I've dealt with this here in Pennsylvania, I'll just tell you a brief story. I was talking in 2020, and I was helping Trump's team out in Pennsylvania on a very low level. So I'm on this call with a bunch of people at the county level in different counties around here in Pennsylvania, talking to this person from the Pennsylvania Republican Party. And so I'm on this call with probably 14 people, and they're talking about our strategy going into the 2020 election. And then finally it's time for questions, and I get to ask a question. And I say, what are we doing to reach out to communities that traditionally don't vote Republican? And they're like who? And I was like, well, like single mothers or college age kids or Black folks, particularly in the inner city in Pennsylvania, Philly and Pittsburgh. And what I was told was, well, we're going after the low hanging fruit. We're trying to we're trying to increase turnout for groups that traditionally vote instead of reaching out. And I was like, well, we lost then. And they got all pissed off at me, and I started to explain. I was like, I personally feel that our conservative values and what the Republican Party is supposed to stand for is beneficial for Black Americans. But if we're unwilling to go in those communities and talk to them, why would they ever vote for us? Right? They might be frustrated right now with the policies in their cities that they see Democrats that have largely been in control. What's the alternative? If we're refusing to engage in it, of course. So I think you have to be honest. And I would say that. I would say, You know, I don't think that the Republican Party is racist in the way that people are claiming, but it's certainly true that they have not focused on issues that affect Black Americans, particularly, you know, lifestyles in like inner cities, and they just haven't done the work to outreach. And that's on the Republican Party, and you should be honest about that. But I think that the policies that sort of, you know, whether you say Trump specifically or like the ideas of MAGA or sort of the policies of the Republican Party absolutely are beneficial to all Americans, or just about all Americans, including the Black community. For example, Trump specifically, Trump represents sort of someone that's an outsider to a current system that benefited an elite few. If anyone knows about that, it's Black Americans, who oftentimes have been patronized, you know, and talked down to and treated as inferior by people in positions of power that were always afraid that Black people, if given equal opportunity, would rise up and be able to outcompete them for these sort of positions. That's why LBJ was so focused on the war on poverty. It wasn't to benefit Black Americans. It was to make them sort of reliant on the people that were in current positions
to
of
shackle
power.
them.
Yeah.
And I think something, if I may, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think something else I'd like to ask you, since my time is short. You know, the Republican Party itself is becoming a big tent party. So the other side of this that I'm having difficulty explaining is, how do I explain away the Nick Fuentes, the Mark Dices, the, you know, like the people that inherently, before you actually start listening to what they say, it can come off abrasive, because you have to keep in mind, you know, when I say we, Black people have been coddled by the Democratic Party, and they only talk to you every 4 years. But then when you come to the Republican side, it's like, oh, well, the only thing I can hear is that, oh, well, he's part of the statistics. He's 1350. So, you know, like, where is the balance? I guess.
It is,
like, how do I find my way?
It is difficult. And there's a lot of people that are on the right that really despise people of color because they feel that there has been an identity politics game and that they've been on the losing end of it. And so white people are denigrated. By the way, I agree with that. I think that white people largely in our institutions have been the group that it's like, yes, you're shit. Now, this doesn't benefit Black people either. They break it through this cultural Marxism where they say there's oppressors and there's oppressed, right? And so there's certainly negatives to being on the side that gets called oppressors, which would be white people or men or Christians or straight people, et cetera, et cetera. You can go through the list. But there's,
I guess, the way I see it, Rob, the way I see it is it's essentially the equivalent of, you know how they say, well, you can't blame white people for slavery of the past, right? Well, I see it as you can't blame Black people for, you know, being ignorant and being on EBT. It's, you know what I mean? I didn't have nothing to do with that shit. But of course, I'm being subjugated to those same faults. So that's how I see it, at least. I could be wrong, but, you know, I see it as one of the same.
So because I have limited time, I'll just answer as quickly as possible and say this.
Yeah.
Although it is true that there are people in the Black community that rightfully people could from the outside could point to and say, look what's going on there, that's despicable. The truth is that that's not all Black people, and it's not even the majority of Black people. And so why should you be lumped in because you share a skin color with someone who's like a gangbanger in inner city Chicago? You shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's like, for me, I've said this a lot. The Black folks that live around me, that I know, that I worked with, granted, I live in an area that's 95% white. They're more like me than some white inner city liberal. So why would I give a shit? The skin color is largely irrelevant in that equation. Now, is there truth that we could look at stereotypes and we could look at like demographic crime statistics and things of that nature and say, look, but there is a stark problem. Of course there is. But why should that mean that someone that's Black that's like, yeah, but that's not me. I'm working hard. I'm going to church. Why should I be lumped in with them? Any more than if you took an average slice of like a police blotter from my hometown, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of people that are addicted to drugs. Should I be lumped in with that? I don't think so. So
I agree.
That's my argument. I think that largely the Republican Party, the message that they have of trying to work hard, of trying to like have conservative values, I think that those are values that hardworking Black people should represent, and they should understand that they're talked down to and pandered by the Democratic Party, and not because they're cared about by them, but because they see them as sort of pliable, easy voters that will be lied to again and again. That's right.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right, AGA, thanks so much, man. Sorry we don't have more time, but call back in any day. Thank you. All right. Alec, I gotta yell. We're only at 50%, 58%. Let's get some donations. Send them in. We got a half hour left. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 callers. It's 5 minutes a caller, roughly. Keep getting those donos in. Did I miss any? Ron Quay, $2 says all that SC money, and you chose to get a nose job? That's not my fault. That's modern day debate. They did it. Big Red Sky, $5 says, Rob, thank you for the hilariousness. I'm here in Fort Hood working on the motor pool today. Make me feel a better day with laughter. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And because Race Guard says this super chat is also EOD's fault. Of course, my favorite banner. There you go. Why aren't we at the goal? I blame EOD. Night Shift's gonna brag. They're gonna make fun of you all. All right. Next up, we have Hello. Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I hear you. What's happening?
Yeah, what I was going to reference to is a while ago, you had the gentleman that, was military disabled.
Uh-huh.
And you were like, well, some people are lying about it and everything. I just wanted to address that because of the fact my husband retired from the military. We thought we were good, he was doing great. He thought he'd been through Operation Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of that. And we were going to, on top of his retirement, and I also am a nurse, we were going to, he was going to work on top of that. We were going to be good,
Sure.
Applied for the Texas Rangers, and they, of course, took him, look at his background and everything, and 6'3", healthy man, I got a call at my job to come and get him, and everything and stuff, and he was curled in a ball. Turns out he did not escape PTSD. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that some people are actually really disabled from the military.
No, you're absolutely right. And what I'm talking about is people like that oftentimes are overlooked because this massive system is easy to be taken advantage of by people that maybe didn't experience those sorts of things. Clearly, anyone that honorably served our country and suffers the effects, either physical or psychological, at a bare minimum from our country, should have their health care addressed. That should be a bare minimum, let alone benefits that they should get on top of that, financial benefits on top of that. The problem is there are people that exploit the system that oftentimes never even served in a situation, and they're getting physical benefits. And what happens is the people that I know, like I told this story of sort of a person that I knew that suffered serious PTSD. And I know this because I talk to them frequently and they've explained to me sort of what they saw. That person struggled to just get medications that was prescribed through the VA covered, which is unthinkable. To send a young man to Afghanistan like that and have him fight for his life and fight for the country and to watch his friends, never make it back home. The bare minimum as a country that we should be doing is making sure that there's never a medical issue that stemmed from that he should ever have to pay for. But he struggles while some people who served in the military that never faced anything like that are not only getting their medications covered, but they're making money on top of it. And it seems that oftentimes the system's counterintuitive, that great people like you're talking about that seriously need help are often overlooked because the system is inundated with a lot of people, a lot of them who legitimately have concerns that need addressed, and a lot of them that see it as a way that they could sort of, make a financial windfall. So I certainly don't mean to impugn that there are obviously people that really, really do suffer effects, and sometimes it's not always just easy to see. Even loved ones could miss, how much of an effect that sort of service can have on a person.
He's actually in treatment right now, and it's hard to talk about because I want to just cry because he attempted suicide. And that's why whenever I heard it a while ago, I thought, please do not tell me they do not understand. Some people are mentally affected.
No, it's absolutely true. It absolutely is. It's a difficult conversation to have. And it's like any of these conversations that we have about sort of benefits. There are obviously in any program that we have that gives benefits, be it food stamp, be it Medicaid, be it housing assistance, obviously there are people that deserve that help, that through no fault of their own, maybe even in service to the rest of us, have found themselves in a difficult position where they could use help. But there are also people that exploit that system. And what happens is when you try to address those exploits, people that are okay with those exploits will say, yes, but this person over here, see, they could legitimately use help. And you're like, sure. And they're like, well, and here's 12 other million people. And then they know that it's impossible to go case by case through that in a way that would seriously be able to sort of weed out the corruption in any meaningful way. But I would never deign to suggest that there aren't people, particularly in the military, that don't suffer through these things. So if that's the impression that I was giving, I really do apologize for that. And I wish your husband the best. But there are people that exploit that system even through the military. There really are.
And he's not actually disabled through the military because he actually retired out. He thought he was fine. We thought he was fine. He was doing well, healthy, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't receive it as far as that. He still receives benefits, of course, because he's retired out and everything. So, but if he hadn't have retired out, I'm still looking at a man that is mentally, impaired.
Yeah.
He is from what he's seen and what he's went through. So it is real. I just want to say, some people may be cheating it, but some people are really mentally disturbed from it.
I feel you. And I'll be praying for you and your husband and tell him thank you so much on all of our behalf for his service. And thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. It's certainly, I would never, in fact, I think that unfortunately the people that really do need sort of service oftentimes get lost in the shuffle because of the people that don't. Abe mentioned this above. Abe is someone who's served, and he says, I'm massively broken by combat and know vets who have not been to combat and weren't injured directly by anything in the military, and yet better benefits than combat vets. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And so what happens is the people that you're like, now wait a minute, like you had a desk job and you're getting more benefits than the guy who was blown up in an IED attack, or who saw massive combat and saw large portions of his fellow service members pass away. It's so crazy. All right, we got to go fast. Alley Cat, what's happening, man? How you doing today? You're muted. Yep, we'll get you.
Yep, there we go. Mike, okay, good?
Yep, sound good.
All right. So earlier this month, it seems like you ran into a little bit of trouble. Now, I'm not really into all the drama stuff, but it did get me thinking. And the idea is that, how do we actually figure out how much power the Panelverse actually has? So I figured I'd run a study.
Okay.
So here's the results of the study. Hold on. I got to get the sharing going on. Got the Rolodex for it. Present. Screen. Okay. Power. Do we see this?
No, it's just blank screen.
Okay, let me try again.
Look at this. This guy runs a computer like me. Same boomer issues.
Exactly. Okay, there we go.
There we go. All right, now we got started.
All right. So it's been a couple weeks to get this. But the presentation might be a little bit rough, but I can assure you the data is 100% accurate.
All right, let's do it. Here we go.
So here's the power of the Panelverse. So the idea here is to understand the true power of the Panelverse.
Okay.
So I figured the best way to do that is to first get a few comparisons of what everybody might think are powerful people, or at least powerful things, so that we can compare it to the Panelverse. So the first one I thought was, of course, Goku. Now, I didn't want to bias the results, so it's just the base level Goku. He's not like Saiyan, Super Saiyan, or nothing like that.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Second one, Kurt Angle, right? American hero. Yep. So very much a powerful person. The third would be obviously the Panelverse, right? Yeah. And then 9-volt battery. Very powerful electrical device. And then I guess last but not least, AOC, right?
Gotcha.
We
Makes
all
sense.
agree all these people will be powerful people?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one would be a physical test. How many push-ups could each of these things do? So it turns out Goku is like over 3,200 push-ups. Is amazing. But surprisingly, Angle almost caught up to them. But,
nice.
Yeah, exactly. AOC, look at this, 12.
Not bad.
Yeah. The battery, 6.
Mm.
I
Pretty
thought I was
good.
pretty surprised about
Yeah,
that.
that is surprising.
Panelverse, only 12 though.
Collectively, 2 for the
Yeah,
Panelverse.
collectively 2. Yep, exactly.
It's rough.
It's rough. So electrical. So I figured, okay, so let's look at the electrical power too. Goku again leads the pack, almost 1,000, 948. Angle coming in at 327. Panelverse. I think Angle maybe a lot of I'm not quite sure what that again, but the Panelverse did come in at 98,
Not
99.
bad.
I think it was like they generate a lot of hot air.
Yes.
So it was able to drive a lot of electricity. Battery, obviously 4. It was only a 9-volt battery after all.
Mm-hmm.
AOC couldn't even get one. Very, very dim.
Not a lot of ideas coming there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the last test would be political power. So what I did is I gave them a constitutional test of 100 questions and see how many they got right. So Goku, 98.
Wow,
which is
crushing
surprising to me. Yeah, crushing it totally. Angle 64. A little bit of a disappointment knowing that
Olympic hero though,
I know. Well, so Battery got 6. Can you believe that? Yeah. Panelverse only 3 though, and I think that's because there's a couple smart guys and one guy got 2.
Sure.
So that's good. AOC only 1 though, and I think it was their name. So
nailed it.
The end results, obviously Goku most powerful, then Kurt Angle, Panelverse, 9-volt, and AOC. So the answer to how powerful the Panelverse is just slightly above a 9-volt battery, but not quite as powerful as Kurt Angle. And so I figured that was a good thing to share.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. I wish I could spend more time with you. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So, hey, we'll talk to you soon. The person named Person in the background there, who's too much of a coward. He's here, but he's too much of a coward to call in. He puts in the private chat, "Hey, Robert, just wanted to let you know that you are not a good person. I hope you change. Goodbye." Well, maybe not, but at least I'm not a coward person. At least I'm not that. All right. Next up, we only got like 5 minutes per caller. Mel, how you doing today, Mel? How's it been? It's been a while.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Not bad.
So I don't want to give the impression that I'm in here to glaze. So right off the bat, I got to point out, if you're trying to be Santa, but you don't got the beard, that is actually being an imposter. I'm sorry, but it's just that is a true imposter.
I assure you it was I just want to be clear. What happened was a last minute replacement. So I was not supposed to be. And like literally, who can you get within 20 minutes? Well, my cousin called me and I was like, I'll try. But yes, it was not good. I will
now you can't. Now when you have the beard, you can't be Santa without that shame. I also can't possibly follow Alley Cat on my commentary on the Panelverse after that presentation. I'm going to seem like a total fucking buzzkill.
That's all right. Alley Cat, it's hard to follow Alley Cat in anything, so.
So, Rob, is it just me, or did we used to kind of have like a different environment in the sort of like debater sphere, maybe kind of pre-Panelverse, where it didn't feel like there was a bunch of charlatans who just wanted to be micro celebs taking over? But rather, if someone had like an open panel, they probably meant it. Like they really wanted to hear people's opinions.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that like there's two sort of ways. I think that one of the things that happened with Sarah's was it truly was more open than most. So like, for example, Prime K's or something, it was open in the sense that they took open invitations, but you kind of knew who was going to be on the panel for the majority of it. And it definitely seemed like the idea was that the people were saying things that were sort of at least tangentially meaningful to the conversation, as opposed to sort of the idea that it's like, well, we're going to have people that's goal is to basically be trolls, that we're just going to come on and we're these personalities that are like, we're the staples of this and we're going to troll. So I definitely think that there was a change that happened. Now, everybody could decide for themselves whether or not they think that change is good. Everybody has their own preferences. I'm not here to decide on that. Personally, though, I didn't really, when it was explained to me like, hey, you're expecting to have like a conversation about the topic? That's stupid. This is all about interrupting and insulting people. It's like, oh, okay. I didn't know that. So that wasn't really to my taste.
Yeah, it feels like, and I'm saying charlatans here, with full disclosure, like I'm embedded in the Panelverse, but I feel like
Spiro said that.
yeah. And but I'm not grifting. I've never actually made money from this space. And I do try, and I think it should be about legit debate. But most of these people come in because they don't have like a thing they can do to make content that immediately puts them in the category that, if they just did their thing, they'd be successful. And so debate to them looks like, oh, well, you're debating people with lots of clout. You can do it relatively easily. You can get lots of your own clout just by debating people and disagreeing with them. It seems really easy from an outsider perspective if you've never like prepped for a debate, for example. And by the way, I do consider you, I feel like your execution of the commentary has been a bit silly, but I do see you as like a worthy opponent who, the reason I haven't challenged you to a debate is because I feel like I need to be well prepped on whatever I'm going to challenge you on. And lately I just haven't had the time to prep for any debate.
Well, we'll do a debate again. I'll say that I unfortunately, because of the nature of me talking too much at the beginning of the show, I'm going to have to let you go because I have to pick up my son in 10 minutes. But just to speak to this real quick, and then I'll give you the last word. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to put the drama behind me because I don't give a shit. I felt like, you know how it is, Mel. Like, you feel like someone's like giving you shit, you give them shit, and then you move on. In this instance, I think that maybe I tapped into something that a lot of other people were frustrated about with a lot of what's going on sort of in some of these open panels. And so it's had negative consequences for some people. That wasn't my intent in the sense that I don't give a shit if people subscribe or unsubscribe or decide to go on a show or decide not to go on a show. None of that matters to me. I think each of us are individuals. I have no problem whatsoever if someone decides, hey, I like you and I like this other person that you were complaining about. Perfectly fine by me. So, I think that it sort of became a joke. I think that sort of, I see average debate and jury. Sorry, I couldn't get to you tonight. I think that it's frustrating because the idea of giving a voice to people that don't have a stream, that, don't really have access to be able to talk about these stuff in a debate setting, I think it's a great idea. And I think that I want to participate in that because I think that as someone who has had the good fortune to have a channel and to be able to debate and be on, a little bit of bigger shows, I definitely want to interact with people that maybe don't have that opportunity. And for me, though, that doesn't mean that it's an intentional shit show. And so that's just my take on it. But I'll give you the final word. But feel free to call back any day. I do a call-in show every day at noon, pretty much weekdays. So
for sure, and thank you for having me and making sure I can get on. But so I think the biggest problem with the Panelverse, just to sum it up, they can't give credit where it's due and appreciate real debate skill. Therefore, they have to run from cowards like people who can debate in order to have cultivate an audience who doesn't recognize that they kind of suck at what they do actually. But anyways, like I said, thank you for having me. I am planning on having my own panels soon, hopefully starting November, every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So keep an eye out for those, and you're always going to be welcome.
Thank you.
I
appreciate it, Mel. Folks. Thanks so much. Yep. Have a good one. All right. We have one more caller. So I do apologize to the people that left. Average Debate Enjoyer, Premonition. You guys are always great callers. I'm so sorry that we're running. We're always doing this. We're always running behind. So I do apologize for that. But thank you for calling in, Mel. Mel's a person that I've debated, and we don't share a lot ideologically. And but I think that the criticism there is warranted. Say what you will about Mel. She did a 2-hour debate with me. And even though there was talking over each other, it wasn't egregious to the point of insanity, So I think that's different than what you see with these people that are sniping on the Panelverse that are just like, does anyone really think that like some of those people would be able to do a 2-hour debate without making it a total shit show? I don't know the fucking pronouns. I don't give a shit. It's irrelevant to me in the sense that, like, I swear to God, sometimes I just have no clue. Like, sometimes people be like, oh, you use this pronoun to that pronoun, blah, blah, blah. Two things. One, I am still streaming on places like Twitch as we speak, and they're a little more strict when it comes to sort of the pronouns thing. Secondly, I just don't fucking know. I couldn't tell you word one about Mel. If you have any question about what my feelings on the trans issue are, go back and watch my fucking debate with Mel. I made it quite clear, but I don't know. For all I know, Mel's a biological female. I don't know, or biological male. So, anywho, $34 will get us to 75%. Wow. Thanks so much, EOD. And then he'll yell at you at how much. Now, I remind you, we already got rid of the chair. We got a new chair. Look at this guy. Oh, man, so comfortable. So if we don't get to our goal, we're going to have to make other changes to this programming. Maybe that means booting people out like EOD. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. No, I'm just kidding. But we only got 7 minutes left. So we got about 4 or 5 minutes with Miggy. Then I'll wrap it up. Miggy, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good so far. I was mostly just been busy for the past few days tracking Hurricane Melissa. It just made landfall 2.5 hours ago in Jamaica at full peak strength, 185 miles per hour, barometric pressure 892 millibars. One of the strongest, if not the strongest hurricane, tied with Labor Day at from 90 years ago. It had to be in Jamaica of all places. But besides that, I just saw the new polls for New York. Mamdani's still going to win, regardless to what, no matter who drops out. But the good news is, at least Stefanik is actually beating Kathy Hochul.
Oh, no shit.
And even if Antonio Delgado ends up primary out Kathy Hochul, he still lose, even by a greater margin. So I think this is a pretty big opportunity for Republicans to pick up New York's governor seat. Same thing with New Jersey. New Jersey's definitely look like it's hotly contested right now. With the early voting, the Republicans are doing way better in New Jersey than they were during the election.
I don't think people understand the historical impetus. You saw that economist I brought up earlier, since 1920 or something like that, the party in power that's controlled the House, the Senate, and the president has lost the midterms all but 3 times. It's really an insane statistic. So if we see, and it's certainly, I know this is different. This isn't the midterm, quote unquote, but these off years, that trend still continues through, not to mention sort of the institutional disadvantage that Republicans have on off years. And so if you see marginal gains like that, it's really a good sign. And, I don't know if you've seen the latest polling. Granted, take polling with a grain of salt, but the latest polling from the polls that aren't the one, not Rasmussen and stuff like that, who I actually trust way more, but they show that Republicans, since the shutdown, are trending upwards, which has got to be scary as shit for the Democrats.
Yeah, because they burned all their leverage they had, and the thing is, people understand. Yeah, you need 60 votes in the Senate for to end the shutdown. We just don't have it because we have Democrats who are not going along, not breaking party lines. The only one who did is your Senator John Fetterman, and there's another one I think in Nevada and in Maine who also broke party lines. But the other ones are still pretty much staying stubborn, thinking that they can win politically. I think they're pretty much destroying themselves worse than what Republicans have done over the time. I mean, we're still seeing it right now in Indiana. One of the Republicans are saying no because in this is what I mean is weakness. You gotta be able to win. Yep. You have to be able to win. I'm just tired of this losing by principles. Now, this is one of the things I get mad about with libertarians like Rand Paul and Thomas Massie. You guys stand to lose every time. Your principles don't matter if you're going to keep getting stomped in the face. It's great to have principles, but you got to strategize. You got to be able to build coalitions. You got to be able to win with the tools you have around you. And for a long time, Republicans have not done that. Now we're doing it now.
Well, hey, Miggy, I got to let you go because I got to read Super Chats, but always a pleasure, man. And keep us updated. Hopefully tomorrow you keep us more updated on this hurricane, which is a real bummer. So praying for the people of Jamaica there. So,
well, Starlink is going to be sent over there, so they'll have Starlink.
Good. Hey, Miggy, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. All right, Super Chats that I missed. Start here. Naughty Germ says, commies to the left of me, Muslims to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Not the singer I used to be. Thanks so much, Naughty Germ. Redeemed Love, $5 says, I'm broke. Well, I'm $5 richer. Thank you so much. Wicked Wally, $5 says, the Panelverse never won an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. And Kurt Angle's word with the broken freaking neck. Get him, Kurt. Premonition News. Thanks so much, Premonition. Sorry I didn't get to the super chat or the call. I'm so sorry. $2 though. Always a pleasure. And Wicked Wally again for $5 says, old chair has gone forward into the future where he joins Mr. Bill, who's secretly in the future, old man Rob. It's true. No one's seen us together. I could do it like, I don't know. Day Shift's never heard me rap. I don't know if Day Shift Rob could rap. We're 67%. That's exactly 2/3. So we'll need what, $115, something like that, $120 to make the goal. Is it possible? It's possible. Someone going to throw $120 in here at the end? All right, what's on tap for today? If you go over to the Crucibles Rumble channel, I'll be co-hosting the extravaganza with the great Jake Rattlesnake. Who knows what we'll talk about today? I'm sure there'll be a lot of inside jokes about our boy Vince, the ShamWow guy. Yoshi had a chat. I'm so sorry. Yoshi, apologies. Yoshi had a super chat. 5 above me. Really? I kid you not, it's not showing up for me. Wow. Can someone tell me what Yoshi said? I'm so sorry. It's literally not showing up. I'm so sorry, Yoshi. Yoshi, thank you so much, man. I appreciated the call. I don't know why it's not showing up. It was a wonderful call. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I am so sorry. In case, for those that don't believe me, look, I'm going to look like an idiot if it's here. So see, there's Bruto. Nothing. Weird. It almost always flags all of them for me. So I don't know what happened. But Yoshi, thanks so much, man. I think you were GA. Thank you for the call. Golly, $20 says, yell at Mr. L for me and tell him to get my code for the jacket. I won. Said he'd get me a code, and that's why I last heard. Oh, man. There I see, Yoshi. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking my call. See, black people do tip. Thank you. I appreciate it. Look at that. All right, it's 2:30. We almost made it. We're $100 short. What can I say? Night shift wins again. Day shift Rob. I'm the inferior Rob. This is my glum face. All right. After the extravaganza tonight at 9 o'clock, I will be debating on who's more violent in the United States, the left or the right. I think it will be a bloodbath. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good debate. So tune in for that. I'll probably start streaming around 8:45 to get ready for that. So we do have to go get my kid. That doesn't mean that someone can't throw $100 in as I'm leaving. It's possible. Someone could do it so that night shift doesn't have bragging rights. Someone is going to step up to the plate. But even if not, I thank you guys so much. Thanks so much, Single Dads Club. It's been a while. $10 says, glad to see Andrew and Rob. Reach out to Cool Vic. Hope you're doing well, Rob. Thank you so much, Single Dads Club. Now we only need $90. You guys are the best. Thank you to everyone who donated, everyone who called in, all of my mods, everyone who liked the stream, everyone who chatted. Appreciate you all. You guys are the best. Thank you so, so much. I all think you're really the best if you actually donate the last 25% as we leave the stream. But as it is, you guys are still amazing and awesome. It was a fun stream. We'll see you all at 5 o'clock over at the Crucibles Rumble channel. Please, please, please never forget the memory of Charlie Kirk and the people that celebrated his assassination. Thank you guys so much. God bless Charlie Kirk and his family. We'll see you over at 5 o'clock on the extravaganza on the Rumble Crucible channel. Have a good
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going. 1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.